So welcome back, guys. This is
Welcome
Kino
back.
discussion, episode 4. Uh,
hmm
we got 4 big movies lined up for this
Huge
episode.
movies.
We got Red One, we got Birdman, we got Patlabor 1 and 2, and we're gonna be discussing them in that order. So if you'd like to avoid spoilers for any of them, or if you've only seen 2 of them or so, you can skip around and watch the ones that you've seen. So.
hmm
Yeah, I guess this might be a bit of a long episode, so I want to go ahead and I want us to
Let's
get
get
right
right into
into
it.
to my recommendation, Red One from the last podcast. My secret recommendation, the first of the
Yeah.
podcast. Um, so Red One is
First of all, I
it's
wasn't even expecting you to recommend that movie. I never thought that I was gonna see it in my life, but I'm really glad
really.
that I did.
I guess
Yes.
we should let the viewers at home know every time that we have gone to the movie theater for the past 6 months, I've seen that Red One trailer, and every single time I keep saying we're gonna go watch it.
Well,
And
I thought you were fucking with me,
yeah,
but
well, here we
yeah,
are, huh?
we
And
watched it in
I mean,
November.
not to give too much away, we did watch it opening night, IMAX theater, packed. By the way, this is no joke. Probably the
I don't know.
only theater in the entire United States that was packed out for this movie.
Yeah,
Um, the
it was
crowd loved
shocking.
it. The crowd loved it. Um,
I was sitting next to a 50-year-old lady,
that
and she
was
was eating it up.
Yeah, there was maybe one kid in the whole theater, and the rest was 50 to 60-year-old adults, which I found very interesting. I don't know if that was their target demo, but that's who they hit. Um,
Because of Christmas.
because Christmas, yeah. So
50 and 60-year-olds eat up Christmas, man.
the plot of Red One: Santa
Oh gosh.
Claus, played by J.K.
J.K.
Simmons,
Simmons.
he gets kidnapped, and Dwayne the Rock Johnson has to team up with a level 4 naughty lister, Chris Evans, and they have to go
Yeah.
save him. I think that's in broad strokes what the plot, without spoilers, of course. I'm sure you all
Yeah.
are keeping an
Um
eye out for those.
and in Dwayne the Rock Johnson, he is an elf, or he's ELF
Yep.
under Santa Claus, and his whole inner battle throughout the movie is that he's thinking on leaving Santa because um it's not the same as it used to be
Yep.
with all these YouTube vloggers and um, naughty listers.
Yeah.
It's just Christmas spirit is just gone.
Yeah. Daniel Larson makes a cameo. He tries to get a picture with Santa Claus. That scene was a little uncalled for.
Yeah, that was messed up.
Um, but yeah, I mean, but we are just going to recount scenes from this movie, probably out of order. And
Yeah,
I genuinely, we watched this about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. This episode is a little late, so, but it's it's Red One. It happened.
yeah. It's the whole movie is under this face of everything, and it's like Christmas but badass. It's like
Yeah, Christmas the epic.
Christmas, Christmas but epic. It's like Santa runs a whole organization. I'm looking at the wiki right now, but
Uh-huh.
it's
He's
it's called
he has
MORA, Mythical Oversight and Restoration Authority, and it's
yeah.
they're a military organization that keeps a secret peace between the mythological creatures, but it's not even
Is
that
that even
deep in
touched
the movie.
upon in the movie at all? Maybe once.
Well, there was
They mentioned Krampus and
headless
they're like they
headless
were
Jack,
brothers.
whatever.
Oh yeah, that's right. The headless horseman shows up.
Headless, yeah. Why did I say headless Jack? I'm
I
thinking of
clapped.
Eyeless Jack. I'm
I
thinking of
clapped.
creepypasta. Yeah, but it's it's so dumb.
It's
Okay,
so what's the word I'm looking? Corporate and disingenuous. That's
yeah,
that's I think the
that's
best way to describe it.
yeah. It's the whole
But
movie is just if you like Marvel quips, if you really mess with that in the Marvel movies, it's basically like a whole movie of that. Like that's it. They're just like talking to each other just like that in every single piece of dialogue
I
at
think
any given moment.
there's a great scene where The Rock, he tells Chris Evans to pick up a toy car, and Chris Evans is like, "What? Why?" And then he gives it to The Rock, and then The Rock goes outside and he makes it big with this thing on his wrist, and Chris Evans is like, "Well, how does that work?" And The Rock goes, "Don't ask. No, you can't have it." Or there's like it's some stupid Marvel quip like that where it's like, you can't touch it, it's mine, you can't have it, and it doesn't matter how it works. Just like blatantly telling the audience don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and then they use that a lot in the movie. This it turns like toys into like human life size things with like whatever the plot needs them to do. It's the plot device thing. And they wrote one joke, they thought it was so good they had to use it twice.
The Wonder Woman.
The Wonder Woman. This is it's in the trailer, and it is the worst joke in the trailer. Chris Evans is like, "Oh, you can make anything like human size? You got any Wonder Woman toys?" And then The Rock like side eyes the camera,
Like,
and then
dude,
they go,
what the heck?
and then they just go in the car, and I'm like, okay, that's just for trailer bit, whatever. And then like maybe 20-30 minutes later, and the next plot point, they go to another toy store to gear up for their next battle, and they just make the same joke again. He just asks the cashier guy.
They make it at the end when they're like, "Are you the real Chris Evans? Tell me something the real Chris Evans would know." And he goes like, "Wonder Woman." He's like, "This is him."
No, that must have been the third time then, because he walks into another toy store. He goes into Toy Store 1 and he makes that joke as they're leaving the toy store in the car, right? And then whenever they enter Toy Story 2 in Germany, he asks the guy up front if they have any Wonder Woman toys. And then like The Rock has to like drag him. And then I guess near the end, it also happens again that I forgot about. So they thought it was so good, they had to shoot that joke 3 times.
Do we need to like talk about like what the characters were? I think I talked about The Rock.
Characters.
Yeah, Chris Evans is the level 4 naughty lister, and he doesn't believe in Santa.
That. I think I might have mentioned
You did?
that.
You did?
So.
Okay.
Oh, we haven't even talked about Santa yet. Okay, so Santa is freaking awesome.
He is awesome.
Played by J.K. Simmons. He does he benches 1,000 pounds. He can beat any character in fiction.
Super freaking cool.
Yeah, and he gets kidnapped.
It's so funny because he's just like, he's kidnapped. He's like in like a couple scenes at the beginning of the movie, and then the rest of the movie he's just like kept asleep in like this fucking chamber, and he's just sitting there like slump, like he's just completely asleep, and he got paid to do that.
Yeah. He looks like Grandpa in the armchair at Thanksgiving. That's what he looks like.
Yes, it's so good.
He's like mouth wide open and everything. Like, it is hilarious. Every time that came on screen, we'd both look at each other and start laughing at the theater because we couldn't believe like J.K. Simmons got paid money to do this. It's so
funny. There's just certain things you have to witness in this movie. It's a marvel.
Sure.
It's something.
My eyes were open and things happened.
When I think back on the movie, I think of it so much more fondly just because like certain moments in the movie are just so what the fuck, and like you're just sitting there like, what is going on?
Let's just go to the end because this is when the movie gets nuts.
But like while watching the movie, like there's the middle portion of the movie is so
we have to say,
horrible.
Yes.
I can't like it was just like draining. I wanted to leave the theater. Like seriously.
If you're watching this at home right now and you're like, I don't think I'm ever going to watch this movie, find a way to watch it legally and skip to like the last 20 minutes and just watch it.
Just see what happens.
Just see what happens and then come back to this video, because honestly, I think those last 20 to 30 minutes is worth it. It is.
Yeah.
It is just garbage.
Absolutely.
It is insane. So I guess, at this point in the story, there's like an ice witch lady, and she's like the worst villain ever. And
when did Christmas ever have like an evil witch in the plot line? Like
this happened. I bet
thought it was
somewhere.
Did it happen somewhere? Like is it
bet.
actual lore?
I mean, I'm not up to date on the retcons and everything that's happened recently, but I'm guessing.
Christmas lore. I've never heard of like an evil Christmas witch with, Santa and his reindeer and Mrs. Claus and his elves but whatever.
Yeah,
I thought it was always Jack Frost. That was the whole thing.
I heard of Krampus. Yeah, I've seen Santa Claus 3: The Escape Clause. Like, I know about Jack Frost being the bad guy.
Exactly, yeah.
It should have been Jack Frost. Hold on.
Yeah, that makes more sense than a Christmas witch.
That's it. Jack Frost. Yeah. Make him buff. There you go.
Exactly, what? He could have been like a raid boss.
Played by Ryan Reynolds. There you go. This is a Ryan Reynolds movie, dude. This is okay. I want to mention the box office real quick because this movie is bombing. Mm-hmm. The movie cost $250 million to make, and it was originally going to be straight to streaming, but they gave it a theatrical release for some reason. And after like 3 or 4 weeks at the box office, it has made $148 million. So it's still $100 from breaking even on budget. That's not counting marketing or anything. That's just budget alone. That's
hilarious.
So
I know that how much it costed to make the movie was like $250 million.
Yep.
And The Rock was $50 million of that budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then like basically the only research that I found that I thought was hilarious is that The Rock was like he was an hour late to every shooting. So he made like everything rough there. And then another thing, he was giving money away on set like he was Oprah. And then I think the last thing that I thought was funny is that he was peeing in water bottles and his like assistants would have to throw them away on set.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, are you going to change out of the red one get-up to use the bathroom? No.
I guess you're right.
I mean,
I think that's so funny that he was just peeing in water bottles and being late to set.
See, you think
it's
funny.
Awesome.
I'm seeing the vision here. I think on stream now I'm just going to start peeing in water bottles. I'm not going to tell anybody, so I don't have to get up and use the bathroom.
Right,
like,
just
why
completely maximize your time.
Yeah, don't shower. Don't get up to use the bathroom.
Sigma stench, it really like helps our performance.
You got to be on that grind.
On the podcast.
While you're taking a shower, somebody else is streaming, getting more viewers than you.
True, somebody's stealing your viewer base.
Yep.
Okay,
right,
so the ice
switch.
Witch basically. She wants to get rid of all of the naughty people in the world and put them in the endless snow globe.
In crystal balls, yeah.
In the snow globe that'll trap them there forever. And so
why does she want to do that?
They have,
like global domination or something? Or does she just want to do it so that there's no more naughtiness in the world or whatever?
I feel like it's no more naughtiness in the world, but I don't think it matters. She just, her whole thing is it's like, I think like verbatim, she's like, Santa has too much power.
Yeah.
And he's using it on Christmas instead of making the world right.
Yeah.
Because Krampus is his brother, spoiler alert, and Krampus is in the movie. And he's just like a frat bro that throws parties and, I don't know.
And gets washed constantly.
Crazy.
He's there to job, and that's all he does.
But like, okay, so after Santa is stolen, they have like just like a couple. What is it? 3 days, right? It's like a pretty short time frame, right?
I don't remember how many days. Maybe.
But he's stolen from the North Pole, and then.
Well, hold on. Let's put a pin in that real quick.
Yeah.
Whenever he's stolen from the North Pole. There's this big action scene where The Rock has to track down the vehicle that's getting rid of Santa. Okay.
Yeah.
So he tracks it down on this sick slowmobile, and it literally looks like
he goes through all the slides in the North Pole, and he's like jumping through them and stuff.
It looks like a Super Bowl commercial. It looks like a really bad Super Bowl commercial for like Coca-Cola or something.
Yeah.
And he gets there, and it turns out it's an empty car, and it was a setup.
No.
And then he sees a plane flying in the distance, and he's like, that's how they got
Santa!
out. So, flash forwarding to the end of the movie, it's revealed that Santa has been at home base the entire time, just underground. So, did they send out 2 decoys expecting him to catch one of them?
He did.
Because
they knew he's a very like skilled and efficient elf.
How'd they know?
He's the Rock, dude. He's Santa.
Okay.
He's literally Santa's right-hand man. They knew that he was gonna get one.
I guess that's fair. He was Santa's right-hand man. I guess that is a fair assumption to make. But anyway, it's revealed Santa has been there the whole time, and then they free Santa, and they get Chris Evans and his son, which, oh gosh, there's some plot about, like,
Chris Evans is like, he's the naughty lister, and he is like not a good dad, I guess, because like he's not a good dad at all in the movie. Like, he's not there for his son's life. I think he straight up like drunk drives him back home.
Yep.
Like, through traffic, like, and it's supposed to be played off as like a
bit.
Chris Evans, the naughty lister. It's like, no, you were drunk driving, bringing your son home. But whatever. I mean, I guess it's kind of funny, but the way it's resolved in the movie is probably like the funniest thing ever.
I don't even
He gets on the phone with his son, and it's like near the end of the movie where like the ice witches schemes are all like coming into plan. And so like he gets on the phone with his son because he has a recital. And I was expecting, like, you know, it's like in every Christmas movie where it's like the dad has to show up to his son's recital to
There's
show that
1
he
hour
loves him.
left until it happens.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta wrap this up quick.
And so instead of that happening, he just calls his son on the recital, and he's like, "Dad, what's this snow globe?" And he's like, "Son, don't touch it!" And then he touches it and goes inside of it, and he's like, "No, what happened?" And then he has like his own snow globe in front of him, so he just like dives in it, and and how his whole thing is resolved with his son is he literally they sit there, and he's like, "Dad, what's going on?" Because they're like miniature and like trapped in these snow globes, and the ice witch is like, "You are naughty and you will stay here forever." And he's like, "Don't worry, son, it's all gonna be okay." And then he just has this like really shitty like
self-actualization.
Son, I've been a bad dad, but you know what? I really love you. And he's like, "I love you too, Dad." And then they like go to touch each other through the globes or whatever, and then they shatter and they come out, and it's like, dude.
And then everybody claps.
He is like the worst dad ever, but he's Chris Evans, so they're it's all okay. It's all resolved.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I guess we should mention that Chris Evans is also like on the FBI most wanted list, and that like he's not a naughty lister because he's you know, just drinking and driving here and there. He's a naughty lister because he takes
horrible.
down governments and does like crazy surveillance and takes down businesses and corporations and research and everything. So
yeah, he's pretty goated. That's why they needed the level 4 naughty lister to save Santa.
Yep. And the polar bear.
Yeah, whoever made that polar bear, that was like their favorite character in the movie.
Yeah,
because like he was probably the only well animated. He was the only well animated part, I think, in the whole thing.
Yeah, there's this bit where he grabs two guys and then it does like a 360 shot of him slamming their heads together, and I'm like, huh. I feel like I'm playing a really bad mod of like Tekken, but like, okay. I mean, it's the best aspect of the movie. I wish the polar bear didn't talk. I wish he didn't have like a Winston.
Well, he's not.
Are we gonna do it to him? Hi there, like stupid voice.
Oh, hi there.
Yeah.
He's in like, really. He's not in the movie that much at all. Like, he's at the beginning, and then he's at the end.
Just like J.K. Simmons.
You're right.
I wonder what the pay disparity was like there. He should go on strike.
He should. Shoot. What?
All
okay.
Right.
We should just skip to the end.
I was about to say, we're getting to
the
end. Oh, yeah, wait. Santa has hyperlight travel. He has FTL. He can go faster than light, and that's how he goes quick. That's important for later. But all right, you just recount the ending now, because I think you have the wiki up and you remember more than I do.
Let me skip to the end. So they go back to the North Pole after they find the tracker. They realize that he never left the North Pole, and they didn't know that they took over the North Pole because
they're shapeshifters.
The cronies of the Witch King are shapeshifters. So they
just
figure
like
out that
Marvel.
the shapeshifters took over the complex. So they go back, they free the imprisoned Mrs. Claus and the other security staff in Santa's workshop. they find Jack and Dylan, who is Chris Evans and his son,
Oh,
and the
okay.
toy duplicating equipment that she used to mass produce the snow globes that they were trapping everybody in. And so, all right,
I was about to say, this is when it gets
because
crazy.
because the North Pole equipment relies on Santa's powers, the evil lady says that she's gonna leave the unconscious Santa using his sleigh to distribute the snow globes. Okay, so a fight ensues. That's all it says on the wiki. But and they're
No.
they're stopped by The Rock and Chris Evans, and basically they're like some crazy stuff happens while they're on the runway, and all hope is lost, and then Krampus shows up. And you're all like, "Whoa, Krampus! I remember that guy."
I expect him to do something kind of cool. Yeah, he's literally from 30 minutes ago.
Yeah,
Like,
and then
he was in the last scene.
And then he like shows up and he's like, "Yeah, I used to date her." He says like some stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying it doesn't give it justice, because like when the action happens in this movie, it's so hectic and like insane. But like it's like turned up to a 10 at the end, because like
yes.
the other ones, it's like it's kind of funny. Like some of the action scenes are like genuinely kind of funny in this movie, but like towards the end, like they just start cramming a bunch of crap, and like there's the big CGI monster at the end that they have to fight.
Yeah.
So Krampus shows up, and then Santa recovers. And I remember there was this one part where Santa's stuck in the sleigh, and it's like hanging off of the ramp. And I dead ass thought that Santa was about to fall and die. But they save him, and he recovers, and he like walks up to Krampus, and he's like, "Yeah, brother, you're dumb and stupid, but I love you."
You didn't mention that
like
Krampus gets like one shot, like Loki versus the Hulk in Avengers, where he just gets
He
grabbed,
does.
thrown into two things, and then is immediately thrown back down, and it's over.
Yeah.
That's his epic heroic moment. That he shows up in the finale just to do that.
And then basically, once Santa is saved, it's like having Goku back in Dragon Ball.
It
and
is.
He just
it was stalling for Goku.
And then this is probably the funniest thing about the movie is J.K. Simmons Santa Claus. He always yells something before he like the reindeer go into like hyperspeed, and so whenever Santa's finally recovered, he like yells some shit. And he's like, and like that probably just clipped out. But
it did.
But he screams something crazy, and then it's like a heat smash from Smash Bros. And
the final smash.
The reindeers like come in and like knock them in the air like a billion times, and then they die.
Yeah. Knocks them into the air a billion times, and then like slams them down into like the void or whatever that was created by something. We couldn't handle it.
No, I was actually like crying. I had a headache at the end because I was like laughing so hard. But I tried to like figure out what he said during that. And I legally saw a cam rip of the movie, and
you paid for a ticket already.
But I looked back and I kept on watching it because he says it 3 times in the movie, I believe.
Yep.
And so I went to those moments and tried to see what he was saying, or hear what he was saying. Sorry, but he literally it doesn't. It's just gibberish. Like I still can't figure out what he says.
Yeah. I don't think he knew what he was saying either. They probably just told him to just say something. Start with a Z. And then
it's so funny, dude. I wish there was just some random clip on it on YouTube. I'd just watch it every single day. It would just like make my serotonin like boost.
You wait. Just you wait. One of our fans is going to clip it whenever there's an HD version of this. One of our fans will clip it.
Oh, thank the Lord.
But yeah, I think that's all we really have to say about the movie. The Rock, he decides he's going to stay as an elf because he's like, power of Christmas really brings people together, huh? And then
Santa's like, "You're finally seeing it, aren't you?" Because he looks back, and Chris Evans' character is talking to his son because they get to go on the sleigh and deliver presents after Christmas is saved, and and he sees him as a little kid again with his son. It's just like, wow, we really learned. And then the funniest line of dialogue, I think we just saved Christmas. And Chris Evans looks over and he's like, yeah, I think we did. And then they try and play they play what's the one Mariah Carey like Christmas song?
All I want for Christmas is you.
They literally all I want for Christmas, but then they hit the you better watch out, you better not cry. It's like, what? They literally they didn't have the rights to the song, but they just tried. It was a bait and hook. Like, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then, Santa screams whatever he screams, and they ride off into oblivion, and they saved Christmas.
Yeah. So I guess that's the movie. I want to mention two things before we close this discussion off about this piece of crap.
Whoa, piece of crap.
I mean, we'll get into ratings here in a second.
Whoa.
I'll simmer it down a little. But for all the viewers at home that either use Discord or Tenor, I would like you to just go to your gifts section and just type in a red 1.
They're the best.
There's a lot of good ones in there because it's just so corporate and like it's meant to advertise the movie, but I feel like a lot of the people that would use these gifts are so drenched in irony that it's honestly just hilarious.
Well, listen, I have to go watch the movie 3 more times so I can unlock like 12 more GIFs, because in this Christmas season, all I have to look forward to is red 1.
Let me find the specific GIF and read it out loud. When you smell milk and cookies in the vicinity, hashtag red 1 sweep, and it's J.K. Simmons smiling as Santa. That is going to go triple platinum in our server. That, I think it has already been posted above 100 times. I think it's already been posted above 100 times.
It's like when we watched RRR and there was the RRR sweep.
Yep.
But
red 1's more culturally relevant than RRR, so,
True.
And then the other thing, I want you to mention this because you have the wiki pulled up. Mm-hmm. You were telling me something before the podcast about... I want you to read this out loud because I couldn't believe it.
So when I was, I want to pull up the wiki during these episodes because sometimes I get a little lost in the sauce, and I got to reel myself in some way, or at
especially
least
for red 1.
Especially for red 1, but I found that they had a fandom wiki, and so I was like, a freaking fandom wiki? That is insane. That's like dedication. So I clicked on it, and it is they are making what they call a Hollywood cinematic universe. And so red 1 is okay. Let me see. The project is seen as the first movie of the Hollywood cinematic universe as a true beginning of a potential franchise, reimagining holiday mythology. The project will be a joint venture production between 7 Bucks Productions, Amazon MGM Studios, Hollywood Studios, and Amazon Prime Original Films, the Detective Agency, and Chris Morgan Productions. So we very well could see, like, a Easter movie, or like...
Yep.
More movies to come under like the cool badass, like,
this ain't your dad, Santa.
But you know what? This could be life-changing because Santa, he's top of the verse. Like, his power is like basically it's unimaginable strength.
Yeah, that's true.
Every villain is just seeking his power. So I'd like to see the other movies in the Hollywood
imagine the Avengers movie universe. When they all team up.
Yeah, and the Easter Bunny's there, and what's that one movie?
I was about to say they could call it Rise of the Guardians. I was gonna wait for
Rise
you
of the Guardians. Yeah, but oh my gosh, yeah. So expect more red 1 to come.
I don't know. Box office 8. We'll see.
It's
all up in the air. I hope we get more of these.
I'd actually go and see them instead of the Jumanji movies.
I hope this is not a dark universe situation where we only get one out of a promising cinematic universe.
Yeah, I would really like more, honestly.
Have you seen The Mummy with Tom Cruise?
I haven't.
I'm writing that one down. Hold on. All right. Are we ready to move on to ratings?
Yeah, I think we are.
Okay. I think I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10.
You know, I was thinking in that range too. I was very generous, a 6. 5.4. It's within that range. A 6.54. 6 being very generous. I think if I watch the movie again, I'll like it so much. I don't know though. I don't know. The middle section of the movie is so like
I was about to say
meandering and like so lame and like horrible. But like I don't know. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to give it a 5. I'm gonna have to give it a 5.
Okay. I need the red one fan edit that just trims the middle of the movie.
Exactly. Just every single portion of it that's like horrible, just get rid of it, and it's just 30 minutes long. That's what I need.
The hour-long special.
How long was it?
2 hours. I think
2
just
hours?
that, like 2 hours 3 minutes I'm looking at.
It felt like
time.
4.
It did, especially in the middle.
Yeah, but besides that, I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay. And this I think we should all both clarify, cuz I don't know if we've talked about a movie like this yet. This is a in terms of enjoyment scale, not in terms of quality scale. This is not.
This is not a quality film at all.
I would give Madam Web like a solid 7 or 8 on my enjoyment scale because I find it so funny.
Yeah.
But on the quality scale, it's probably like a 3. You know.
Yeah.
Like on the quality scale, this is probably like a 2. But I do find lots of enjoyment in how just amateurish and pathetic it is. So.
Yeah. I wish it leaned into like how stupid it was.
Yeah.
Like it kind of does in the end and the beginning. Like if it takes itself super seriously, and I think that's hilarious. But like in the middle portion, it just like it drags so hard, and it's not like if they just kept doing fights for no reason, I would have been so tapped in. But
well, you say that, but there's a fight with like snowmen halfway through the movie that just sucks, and it drags for so long.
Oh yeah, it does. But yeah, the middle part just kind of stinks, but
the middle part, the majority of the movie kind of sucks, but there's some gold in there.
There's some gold.
Watch
some
the first 30
gold.
minutes, skip to the last 30 minutes, the middle, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
Watch it when it comes out on Amazon Prime and just skip through it. That's my recommendation.
Yep, that's my recommendation too.
So,
I'd say watch it with a bunch of people and force them to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like literally strap them to like wherever they're sitting and like make sure they don't leave, and just make sure that they like have to watch it like the whole 2-hour runtime.
Yeah, like
so
Clockwork Orange.
Exactly, so that they can feel the true power of Christmas. All right,
so we spent 30 minutes talking about Red One, which is the movie I think we both have the least to say about.
No. This is gonna be a long episode, man.
Birdman? I'll let you take that one away.
All right, Birdman. I requested this. I watched it like a couple weeks prior to from
last episode
recommending
airing.
it. Airing the last episode. So I actually, when I watched it, I really wanted to watch it again, and it's just like, it's such an interesting film to me. It's so cool. Like from the beginning, you just like lock in, and I don't know, it's one of those. It doesn't have like a cut in it at all, so it's just like a one-take movie. It
does have a cut in it, but they are like hidden. It's meant to look like a one-take movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, not saying that it's like it sucks because of that. I think it is still kind of crazy to have these like 8-9 minute monologues without any cuts and anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's super interesting.
Yeah,
it's basically, so the whole premise is it's Michael Keaton, and I think his character his name is Riggin, I think. Yeah, Riggin Thompson.
Okay.
And he's a faded actor. Read that verbatim from the wiki, so props to me. But he used to be a superhero, and it was Birdman. And if you like scratch your brain and think for 30 seconds, you go, whoa, Michael Keaton was Batman. And you know, that was the first thing that I thought of. And anyways, he basically he has like a huge first of all, he has a lot wrong with him. He has like schizophrenia basically, where his like Birdman persona is mocking him and critiquing him all the time in his head and saying that that the play that he's, you know, trying to start up in the movie is basically means nothing. And it kind of doesn't, because he's doing it for all the wrong reasons, but he has his biggest thing is that he wants to be a Hollywood actor again. And the whole movie, since like it's kind of like a one take, I kind of envision it as like just a stream of consciousness. And I don't know if he sleeps in the movie at all, like really ever.
There's that time where he gets like blackout drunk, I think.
Yeah.
But
I think that's pretty much it. So it's like the guy is just going insane, and it's just it's such a cool movie. I knew I was gonna like it when they introduced what's his name? I know who you're thinking of.
The
Edward Harrison.
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton. Edward
Yeah,
Norton.
Yeah,
His character
is really entertaining.
It is, and I feel like the movie is like it's trying to say that Michael Keaton and him have like fallen off, because like kind of like
Both were
after
in superhero movies.
both were in superhero movies and then they fell off and
Yeah.
or well fell off in the eyes of Hollywood.
Yeah, in the eyes of Hollywood, yeah. They weren't doing these mega budget movies.
Yeah, and so it's just it's so interesting. He has Riggin has like a horrible relation with his not sister, his daughter. And he like his daughter, like, I think has gone to rehab a bunch of times. She's into drugs. There's like characters like that one off like say like, oh, I bet she's barely even thinking because all the drugs in her and stuff like that, and just being like really condescending towards her. And so some of the movie is him trying to be a good dad. And most of the characters in the movie, I think, are genuinely horrible people, besides Riggin's wife, who shows up a couple times in the movie just to glue his head on back straight after he has like a horrible crash out or something like that.
I think there's a great moment when she discovers that he has refinanced their home for this play. And because I think, isn't their daughter like living with him because she doesn't have a place to stay either right now because she's like a recovering addict?
Yeah.
So it's like he sold like their sense of security essentially to try and make this artistic statement. And
it was also, well,
who knows if it's going to do anything.
It was also supposed to be where their daughter was supposed to stay, like when she was able to like get herself planted on the ground. But what is there to what am I thinking of? So the movie just really just follows Riggin and all of his insanity, and I gotta think of who Edward Norton's character's name is, but he completely he sees through Riggin and basically calls him out on all of his BS through the whole movie, because Riggin isn't really an actor, and that's what he's trying. Yeah. Mike is trying to tell Riggin the whole movie that he ain't shit, and he's like, Riggin is like kind of like throughout the movie he's just trying to find relevance and feel as if he's loved, but he's doing it in all the wrong ways. And he's like he holds himself super highly for not even being that good of like an actor, and so like, I think there was a character that like just straight up told Riggin that he wasn't an actor, he was a celebrity.
That was the critic lady, who's probably my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah.
I think the line that has stuck with me the most, because like I watched this back in high school, and it's a very dense movie, and a lot of it is like, you know, hard to digest on like a first watch. And the thing that always stuck out to me the most, I think, is there's this really great line where it's like professional actor and professional critic, and both are just, you know, so far up their own ego that they don't. Neither of them you want to associate with.
Riggin goes to talk to her because basically the one critic chick, her review is the only one that matters, and so he walks up to her, and he tries to give like his sappy thing that he gives to everyone. He's like, "Yeah, I did a play when I was a little lad, and an actual actor was there, and what did it say? It said something like, "Thanks for an honest performance," or something like that, and it was written on a cocktail napkin. And so
the guy was drunk. Yeah,
he was drunk, but he went to he went to the reporter, and he said something like he gave her the napkin, was like, "Hey, so yeah, this was the time I decided I wanted to be an actor," and she just looks through him and is like, "I'm gonna destroy your play. It's gonna be nothing when I'm done with it." And so he looks at her notes, and I think he's already drunk there, and he's just like, "These are just a bunch of labels."
That's the scene before he blacks out, I think.
Yeah. He's like, he ridicules her for being a critic, and he's like, "These are just a bunch of words. This costs absolutely nothing, and I'm putting everything on the line out there." And this is, stuff like that. And that's a really interesting conversation. Because, I mean, in a way he's right, but in a way he's completely wrong.
I think I can see that, yeah. The line I was thinking of, I just looked it up, is actually in reference to an earlier scene where Mike talks to the critic alone. And I can't remember what she says to provoke him, but he says, "A man becomes a critic when he cannot become an artist. The same way a man becomes an informer when he cannot become a soldier." And I do think about that a lot, because I'm like... There's like a lot of like creative ideas for like stories and concepts that I kind of always like just kind of talk myself out of and talk myself down, because I'm like, how am I going to get funding for this? This would be so much time to invest in something that could fall apart. And I mean, honestly, I'm pretty young, not to dox my age or anything, but I'm pretty young, so I'm not like in a midlife crisis like, oh my gosh, what have I done with my life? What does my life mean? I'm not there yet. Okay, I will be, but it's something
we all will be.
I'm gonna say for like my twilight years. But I do think like if you're a professional critic and that's like what your entire like life has been you like critiquing things, I think that is something that people kind of should take notice of.
Yeah. If you're really good at something, I feel like your word should have, weight.
I just...
Like, at the end of the day, like, especially the conversation that Riggin was having with her, he was right in how he, you would be rightfully pissed off if, you sunk millions of dollars and how this play is affecting you mentally, and you're just going insane. And just the words of somebody who hasn't even given the play a try yet. They just despise you.
Yep.
I would be mad, but he's kind of horrible, and his whole thing is that I think one of the coolest things is at the beginning. What's his name? Did you say Mark? Mike. So Mike. He's a replacement for another dude that Riggin straight up sabotages and has like a light fall on his head because he wasn't good enough for the role. So they called in Mike, and Mike is like, he's a bigger star. And so they have to keep him. But the beginning, the play hasn't started yet. It's all just people paying to see like previews and then practice. And so Riggin is like, he's taking this like super like personal at the beginning, and Mike doesn't care at all. He's kind of that like free spirit. And so within that first like scene that they did together, and Riggin kind of goes off and does his what's it supposed to be, his inner monologue where he faces the crowd and talks. He gets he gets way into the moment of being, a lead and stuff, and it pisses Mike off so much that he literally just destroys the performance in front of everybody, like while it's going on.
That's a great scene I like a lot. at the beginning you're like, okay, he's kind of going off script a little bit, but maybe he's like doing this for an artistic reason, and then he just starts destroying the set, and
He
starts
destroys the set, and he gets
mad. He crashes out at everybody and just like lashes out at people, and
he's like,
okay.
did you replace my alcohol with water and like stuff like that? And
Yeah.
he's just freaking out, and I thought that was super cool because like, I don't know, just how the movie's shot, you can feel the weight of the theater on like these people. So like everything going to crap, you can be like, oh shit, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like it's such a cool movie. I'd say watch it.
I guess we probably should have said that at the beginning before we went ahead and
spoiled a lot of things, but
I would definitely say watch this movie before we spoil the ending.
Yeah,
which I feel like there's more to talk about before we get there. Birdman talking to Michael Keaton's character, like those inner monologues are easily my favorite part of the movie. Just like
it's so
arrogance
funny.
Directly talking to him.
Yeah, he
I think my favorite scene in the movie is and I know this is probably everybody's favorite scene in the movie because it's the scene where the most things happen, but well, actually two scenes. One is where after he gets drunk and he like wakes up and like at this point he's like hungover and he's really susceptible to what his ego is telling him. And Birdman kind of like envisions like this Birdman 4, the return type of like story arc.
Mm-hmm.
And like things start happening in the background where it's like a lot of CGI effects and stuff.
It looks really good too.
It does look really good. And it's like, oh, and then the audience clapped and everybody loved it and all this, and no one cares about your stupid play you're putting on. Mm-hmm. And then like it hard cuts like to him, or it slowly pans up a building, and then you see Birdman up at the top, like, and you think like he's gonna jump off. You think Michael Keaton's gonna like almost kill himself because this is like a real low point in the story, where like it's looking like he might lose everything from the show.
Yeah.
So like, why even bother with the final performance? And he doesn't. And I can't even remember why. I think it's because just so many people were like, "Are you gonna do it?" And he's like, "Nope, it's for a movie." And they're like, "Oh, he's doing a movie," and then they all just leave.
Yeah, I think somebody comes over to him and like taps on his shoulder and is like, "Hey man, you good?"
Oh,
or, like steps down. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He's like, come with me." And instead of going with that guy, he just literally like turns, darts, jumps off the building, and starts flying.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's what it is.
And I think that's really cool. I think, okay, one thing is like, I think that, I know it sounds so stupid, but I feel like the flying stuff, at least to an extent, even if it's in his own head, I feel like it's like his freedom in an odd way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he meditates at the very beginning of the movie, and he's like floating, and you're like, what the heck is happening? And then there's moments in the movie where he's like crashing out, and he'll just point at things and they'll like explode, or he'll like he'll motion his hands like he's grabbing something and it'll just float up, and he'll like throw it against the wall, and it's like he's using like telekinesis or something. So it's like, it's obviously not real, but I feel in my mind it is in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I know that makes absolutely no sense. Like, I completely just, you know.
I mean, I kind of get it. Like,
we'll see, because I haven't discussed like the ending.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so maybe I can get some like kind of concrete, like, you know, kind of feel for, you know, how it ends. But
there is no concrete ending. It's very interpret.
No, it is interpret.
So
but we can at least talk about it.
Before we get to ending, I want to talk about my other favorite scene in the movie, which is where Michael Keaton's character has to walk around Times Square in his underwear.
Yes.
Like in the heat of the moment, like he gets locked outside and he has to like... He gets locked outside, his jacket gets stuck in the door.
Yes.
And so he has to like full sprint.
And it's after he sees the Mike guy kissing his daughter.
Yes.
And and he needed to go take a smoke break outside, which I get. I'd be taking a huge drag. But that was all. Yeah, that's a good scene.
Yeah,
Um,
I really like that. And then the thing after that, I guess we're getting into major spoilers now, so I'm gonna say go ahead and watch the movie if you haven't. It's only like an hour and a half. It feels shorter.
it's really really good.
It's really good. I would
It,
recommend it before
there's
we get into the
there's
ending.
moments like there's just moments of like genius in the movie that I really really like, where it like implements the drum, and it just the movie knows that it's cool sometimes, and I can really appreciate that. I think it's awesome. And kind of like when going between scenes, like a character walking somewhere and you get to see a different part of the studio, it'll hit you with that drum beat. It'll just make you think. You're like, whoa,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh my
watching
gosh,
something different.
we haven't even talked about the soundtrack yet. I love it. It's
It's
so
amazing.
interpretive and just I think it fits that chaotic atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
perfectly because
Absolutely.
there's never any rhythm to how it works. It's just depending on what the actors are saying or doing or how they're feeling, those drums will just go crazy in the background.
Yep.
It's phenomenal.
It
I
makes
love the soundtrack.
it makes you sit up a little when you're watching. Like, okay, okay,
Yeah.
kind of.
That's one thing I want to do. I want to look up and see like on let me see if it's on Spotify. Are there different track listings or is this just a 2 hour suite of music?
I wouldn't.
Because
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. That's kind of what it
that
feels like.
oh my
Because
gosh,
it's
it's
not.
okay. It's 21 songs and it's like an hour and 12 minutes. So it's like 5 minutes for each song essentially.
Mm,
I'm curious to actually listen to this at some point now to see how the soundtrack
how it
kind of
all
works.
ties together.
Yeah,
That's super cool.
that is really cool. But yeah, I really because I mean the whole movie you just think it's like one song pretty much that just
Mm,
flows into itself.
yeah, that's kind of because that's that's exactly what I was thinking. Um,
But yeah, I guess moving on to the ending now. Uh, after
so
the scene where he was running around Times Square in his underwear, he comes in for like the final performance.
oh no, that's like that doesn't
Oh, is
happen
that
then.
two different scenes?
Nah, I can wrap it up. I think I
Okay, you
could.
can. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So basically, when when it nears the end of the movie, he has a prop gun, and I one thing I was interested in knowing is like what play they were doing, because I don't know that much about plays, and I wondered how much that would tie in to what's going on in the story, and like
Yeah,
everyone's like certain internal conflict. But he basically, there's like a scene where he walks in on Mike and one of his other actors in the play, and he walks in, and he's supposed to point the gun at him, and then he has like a realization where he's like, I'm nothing. I'm not
yeah,
even, nobody even sees me right now. And basically, Riggin, he takes everything wrong. If he's gonna mess something up, he's gonna do it. He messes up every single relationship he has with a person. He just does everything wrong in the movie. Like I don't know if it's unpurposefully. Well, actually, it's because he's too far up his own butt. But at the end, he has his own personal epiphany where he's going to shoot himself on stage.
yeah,
And he was going to do that with the prop gun as part of the act, but he pulls out an actual gun. And so the scene is super tense, and it ends, and he actually does end up shooting himself. And it shows like, I think it's just his blackened silhouette, but it shows like blood rushing out, and then the curtains shutting, and everyone cheering and applauding like it's an amazing performance. But he ends up living.
yeah. He shoots himself in the nose instead of the head somehow.
Yeah. He managed to shoot himself in the nose.
Can't
And
even do his
so,
suicide right. Yeah,
yeah, his daughter comes and visits him in the hospital and asks him if he's okay. And I think he says that he's finally over it, stuff like that.
yeah,
And I don't know exactly what happens, but he like doesn't he just go his daughter leaves, and he goes to the bathroom, and he takes off his
no. His daughter leaves, and then like his manager comes in, and his manager is like, who's his manager played by again? It's
I know.
I see his face.
Zach Galifianakis, right?
Is that it? Maybe. Let me double check.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. It is. But it's played by him, and uh, he comes in and he's like, "They loved it. The critics loved it." Like the lady that was talking crap the whole movie, she loved it, and she wrote this whole thing about how like it's a new art form. Like blood didn't only run in the story; it ran on stage as well. Like kind of missing the whole point of his artistic expression almost.
Yeah.
And so he, then he's with his daughter, and then they both leave. So it's like he has some time to himself. So he goes to the bathroom, and
He takes off his bandages and looks at his new nose. I remember that.
yeah,
And then he
yeah,
looks over and he sees Birdman like taking a dump reading a newspaper.
yeah,
And then he goes up to the window to his room and he just jumps out.
yeah.
And then his daughter returns. And his daughter's played by Emma Stone. She's just a fantastic actor.
She's great.
She's just
great in
amazing.
this.
I don't think I've seen a movie that she's in where I haven't been like, dang, she's good. But she walks out, and this is where the movie ends. She looks out, and at first she just has like a face of despair, like her dad just like committed. But she slowly like raises her like her head up and she smiles because he's flying. From like well it's really just interpretive, but her head looks up and she sees him and she smiles for him, and that's how the movie ends. It just cuts right after that. And I think it's super. It's so cool. It's such a cool ending.
It is a great ending, and I think what that ending is kind of trying to convey is like I've seen a lot of people say that it is him killing himself, but I do think that is him almost killing the Birdman identity and ego.
Yeah.
Of like, I don't have to be this guy that's in front of anything anymore. I do my art for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He doesn't do it for other people. That's what I thought the ending was.
That's what I was thinking too, because the Birdman like ego, like kind of the only, well, I don't know. I was trying to think the time when he flew at the beginning. I was trying to say that like he was free and lifted then, but kind of it was more like he reached like a certain stage of like weird enlightenment where he was like, yeah, I could just go do this again and I don't have to touch this play, and
Yeah.
he kind of ended the play in his own weird, selfish way.
Yeah, I definitely see that.
But I kind of feel like him flying. I'm a little optimistic, so I like to think of all of the moments where he was actually floating and shit. Like, kinda, it's kind of like a weird movie in that way, where it's like he can just fly.
Yeah,
but
they fly now.
They fly now. But I feel like, what's it called? Like, him flying at the end is him just not, it's like the weight lifted of him, like, of his own, like, self-image in a way. He's just completely free from, like, Birdman controlling his thoughts. That's kind of the only way I think of it. But I don't know. But I also see that he very well could have, died.
I think I could see it both ways.
I could see both ways.
I prefer that was him letting him go of his ego. And I guess the last thing we kind of want to talk about is the context of the movie. So this was released in 2016.
2016?
I think. Or was it 14?
I thought it was 14.
Sorry, 2014. And I think this was around the time, let me look it up. I think this was around the time that people were kind of predicting the superhero stuff would die out. Like, first Avengers happened, the sequels to those movies were coming out, and they weren't doing great. DC had, like, their Man of Steel disaster, I think, at this point. Like, superhero movies weren't in a great spot, and I think a lot of people were like, it's a fad. MCU worked for, like, 7 movies, and then it's over. Yeah. And I think this was kind of a movie kind of preemptively shooting that genre.
It was over.
Yeah. And it kind of backfired in a way. Because
it did.
Michael Keaton's career now is very depressing to look at. considering the end of this movie.
Sorry, I just slurped a drink. But
with him coming back as
what he played the Vulture in Spider-Man.
He played the Vulture
too.
first. Yep.
And then he played Batman, and then he went back for Beetlejuice, right?
Yeah. Well,
so,
you're missing one important one in between there.
What?
He was in the post-credit scene of Morbius as well.
Really?
You didn't know that?
I didn't. Well, I'm not like a Michael Keaton. I'm not a Michael Keaton fanatic. I also didn't watch Morbius, so.
You're not a Morb head? What?
Nope. I never watched Morbius.
No way.
Well, that was also in the era, like, when the Venom movies were coming out. I was so mad that Sony was even making a Venom movie that I just refused to watch any of them. I think Madam Web is the only...
The only one of them you've seen?
The only one of them I've seen. And I love that movie, but I'm going to hate the rest. Like, I will genuinely watch the rest of those movies. Like, I don't think I'll ever like Venom.
Okay.
I might like Kraven the Hunter though.
What I was about to say, Kraven looks kind of crazy though.
Kraven looks hilarious, but
he's like fighting a helicopter with his bare hands and throwing it around.
I hate the idea of like of a Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man, especially Kraven, because like, what is Kraven without Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Maybe a Kraven head out there will be like,
hunts now.
Listen, Blaine, you're stupid because Kraven is so much deeper than the perfect hunt. And it's just like, I don't know, bro. Just like without Spider-Man, I just don't get it. But anyways, we're off topic. What does Michael Keaton going back on those roles have to say for Birdman? Because that's my biggest question. Birdman seemed so much like a Michael Keaton, like, not like self-expression, maybe like just a little bit. It's not like the character he plays is obviously not himself. I'd like to imagine he isn't like a cheater on his wife and horrible and self-pities himself so much to where he ends his life on his own show.
Yeah, that's how Beetlejuice is gonna end.
Oh, I hope. But
Don't say that. That's horrible.
My bad.
I hope Michael Keaton lives a long and prosperous life and continues to make good movies.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about like Beetlejuice.
Oh no.
No, I don't want anybody to end their life, but it's just for like, I don't know. It feels like for me to have that view of like, in Birdman, he's lifted from that part of him at the end. And then he goes and he plays Batman again for the Flash. Yep. So it's like, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a hard question.
I think, I don't have an answer for that question. I mean, I still see this as an interesting piece of art, and I think the check was just so fat that he couldn't say no.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't blame him.
I don't blame him either. I was going to say, I don't blame him either. You
got to get that bag in Hollywood somehow, but like...
Yeah.
Birdman is just such a great movie. Like, I mess with it so much. It's so cool.
And I forgot this was Best Picture winner. Did you know that? For 2014?
I didn't.
I thought it won Best Actor and like Best Cinematography, but it won Best Picture. So...
Oh, that's cool. Nice. Deserved it.
Yeah. Pretty good movie. So are we ready for ratings, I think?
I say yes.
Right.
I'll go. Okay. I think this is one of the more like interesting movies that really made me think and, really, dig my heels in and like, really pay attention to what's happening to try and like scrape up anything. So within that itself, I'm going to give it a 10. I think it's a really good movie. Probably more realistically, it's a 9, but it's one of those movies that, I don't know, I'm so infatuated with it. I could like watch it a couple more times like throughout the years and just find something like new and cool that I hadn't thought of before. But yeah, that's what I say.
Okay. I think it's a 9 out of 10. Final statement.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
It's fair.
Pretty good.
Pretty epic movie.
Alright, the episode's running long, and we're just now getting into the meat. So, get your popcorn ready. Okay. This is the halfway mark, I guess, probably.
And what's funny is I don't think I have much to say about the Patlabor movies. Maybe two, a lot more than one.
I was about to say two, a lot more than one, I think.
But I think one is cool. I think what
I
I
guess
think
let's
about
preface it. Well,
yeah,
let's
go ahead,
preface it with
You
this.
start. This is your movie.
This is my baby. I love these movies. If you know me in person, you know I never shut up about these movies ever.
The Oshi classics.
The Oshi classics. I think you've seen just about all of them now.
Pretty much.
Besides the one I haven't seen. I haven't seen the Sky Crawlers yet, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. I heard that one's kind of like a mediocre, almost like a Ghibli bait style movie,
that's sad.
and I'm like, he kind of, yeah.
He's better than that.
He's better.
He's
so Patlabor takes place in this world where the police force, or I guess not just the police, everyone has like, not everybody, but like there's robots, and they do mainly like manual labor. So they're mainly like construction robots. They're not like Gundams that exist for war. And they mainly do like construction site projects and stuff like that. And they're basically just like equipment. And Patlabor is from the perspective of a group of people, the SV2 unit, the Special Vehicle Unit 2. And they're like a police unit that they have their Patlabors, and they are they fight against Patlabor crime. So before the movies, there was this 7-episode OVA series, and
I didn't know this.
It is kind of like a setup to the movie a little bit. It's more like slice of life, and you get to know the characters, and it's a lot more like nothing really high stakes happens except for like 2 episodes. And it's just a fun time. There's funny moments, there's some cool action here and there, but it's mainly a comedy. And you get to know all these characters. And then Oshi was heavily involved with that. And then
That's cool.
Patlabor 1 happens. And Patlabor 1 is basically a little bit more serious, more in-depth episode of the TV show. Is like I think a good way to describe it. It's about this company that is trying to build this project. Okay, wait, I gotta remember. So why are they trying to build this again? So they could drain the water? No, I remember now.
Wasn't what?
So there was something
all
called...
I remember was that they like the labors that they had. They could like, they were like it was like the equivalent of having like 100 men or like more per Patlabor, right?
Yeah.
Or not the whatever they're called.
The labors.
Labors. But like they're basically just building more and more like land for Japan, right? Building more settlements and
they're
like
building
sectors.
a big wall to filter out all the water in the middle of Japan and turning it into a big landmass instead of just having that bit with the water in the middle, essentially, is what their plan is. And to speed up this process, they contact a company that is working on a new Patlabor OS operating system. And their operating system makes it to where all units go 30% faster, and they're more efficient, and they're better.
Wasn't it called HOS?
HOS, yep, Hyper Operating System. Yeah. And the guy that rolled these, he developed the HOS, the operating system. He killed himself. And so the movie is kind of like this mystery of like, why did this guy kill himself? What's this corporate mystery going on, this espionage?
Crap. This is like iRobot.
I mean, kind of.
Whoa.
I guess. Callback.
Peak recognizes peak, dude. Okay. I'm sorry.
And the movie
I'm not gonna act like I completely snubbed on that movie, just like shat on it so hard in that episode, but go ahead, my bad.
It's you talked me down a point. I was gonna give it a 3 and you made me give it a 2. Or you didn't make me give it a 2, you made me come to my senses and give it a 2. But anyway. So it's Patlabor 1. Let me look up the character names again, because I remember 2 of the character names because I like them a lot, and all the other guys are just kind of like there.
Yeah.
Let me look. And they all have Japanese names, and I'm really, really bad at remembering Japanese names. Let me look. Okay, so there's this movie is more so focused on Asuma and Noah, which are like the two younger pilots,
Yeah.
and most of it's focused on Asuma or Asuma, I think is how you say his name.
Kind of how I viewed Patlabor 1 is that it's like the things are like really drastic within like, I guess, what's happening in the movie to like, make everything go awry, but it has like a really like carefree, lighthearted tone, yeah. And I think I like the second one a lot more because it dials back a bit on that.
Oh, but a lot. It dials back on that a lot.
But I still like the first one. It's okay. It's all right.
I think something to put in these movies, I think, is they're both essentially two sides of the same coin. Like they are exact opposites of each other, and I find that very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first movie a lot more carefree, and even though it does have like this pretty dark subject matter of like this idea of like, okay, this company is doing this, and there's like all this sabotage, and they're trying to build this like, what is their plan with building the ark and the tower, and this is where the movie kind of gets bogged down, I think. Like, because they've like, there's something about Babel, and there's like this Bible verse they mention.
I don't know. I really don't know all that, but
it kind of gets a little in over its head, I think.
It still has like a lighthearted tone in what you were saying, like, there was like all that stuff. There was also like rankings within like the police force where it's like there's people that know more than them and don't want them to succeed in some ways. That carries over in both movies that I think is very excellent.
One of my favorite characters is, I believe his name is Goto. He's the commander of like, he's like over all of them.
Yeah.
Goto, and he's just like,
Goto the goat.
Throughout this whole movie, he's just making like sly remarks like, yeah, well, hey, if you do something, I didn't see it. And he just seems like the chill boss, like, that's like, you're doing the right thing, I'm gonna turn a blind eye to like what you're doing in your like detective work. But he's still doing it like in a way where it's like, I was gonna do it, but I don't want to do the work and go through the paperwork, so I'm gonna send I'm gonna send the intern to do it instead.
I'm gonna get my intern fired first of all, and then
hey, he got put on a 2-week suspension for, what did he do? Like something crazy, right? He like snuck into there with like the chief, and he like took a copy of their OS, and like he I mean, he didn't mean to, but he ended up hacking their system and like shutting them down and stuff.
Yeah, he hacked Haas, and it started like freaking the hell out, and like taking over everything.
That scene is
That's
great.
really cool.
The babble, and then like it's like a 360 spin of the room as like it all turns red. Mm-hmm. And like you see in like the reflection of his eye, it looks great. The animation in this movie,
yeah. What's it called?
Phenomenal.
When something I really liked was when it zooms in on their face a lot, and you get like a freaking like eagle eye like view of like their spread out weird face of like something happening. I loved that.
Like watching something in like first row IMAX, like that Oppenheimer image.
Yeah, or Dune, the one Harkonnen guy, bald dude. It's like those are really cool.
I think those work for comedy well.
Yeah. When the Haas like takes over or whatever, and all the screens go red. It reminded me of like Ava in a weird way, but like in a cool, in its own cool way. The
visual style.
The visual style of like everything going I'm gonna say awry twice. Oh my gosh, guys! But everything going wrong. It's just like that. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, this movie, the plot is like really light.
There's weight because there's like,
I would think the movie. I mean, I think
the higher ups like watching them the whole time, like, "Grr, don't do that. You're gonna cause a whole freaking problem for all of us," kind of thing.
Yeah. I've sounded really down on it for how much I like this movie, but I would like to say that like I was never bored watching the movie. I found every scene entertaining, where that was like, oh, here's something for me to chew on or think about, or it was just, oh, that was a fun, entertaining scene to see how these two characters would interact.
Yeah.
But I think everything this movie does, Patlabor 2 does better. But this movie kind of has to exist in the way it does for Patlabor 2 just to function as a movie.
Yeah.
And have the emotional weight it does.
It's kind of, yeah. The
soundtrack for this movie. Whenever I go back, I usually just... Oh my gosh. Whenever I go back, I usually just rewatch Patlabor 2. But this is like my third time watching this in the past 2 years or so. This first one. I've watched Patlabor 2 in the past 5 years. Probably close to 10 times. But that soundtrack sticks with me. The Patlabor 2 soundtrack is like always on the Spotify. It is.
It is.
I won't be shocked if it shows up on my Wrapped. Like
that's hilarious.
I love that soundtrack. It's perfect. And we'll talk about that as we get to Patlabor 2. But Patlabor 1 has a very different feel. It's way more upbeat and energetic. And I remember like I had the biggest smile on my face during like the end of the final confrontation, this like really tense moment. And then
like J.K. Simmons in Red 1 smiling?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then like the helicopters show up and I just had like the biggest grin on my face. And then there's the last song on the soundtrack, I believe. Let me look up what it's called so that you at home that don't care enough about this can go look it up. Because I love this song. Let me look it up. What is it called? Into the Sunrise.
Into the Sunrise.
It's great. And I love that whole scene. The finale of this movie is really interesting, I think. Like the last like 20, 30 minutes or so. Once they actually get on the arc, I think it's a really well done like action movie.
Yeah.
And it's a fun action sequence of like all these robots are like going rogue, but like they're not like Ghost in the Shell 2 going rogue where they're like super
it's kind of like
murdering
terrifying
everybody
and horrible.
Yeah. They're kind of dumb and stupid and they kind of just fall over themselves and get like they kind of just stand there and get shot at a lot and they're kind of just like mindless drones.
Mm-hmm.
But like the idea
what did they
of,
have to do? They had to raid the own arc and like defeat their own like
so the arc
like
had
bots, right?
So the guy that killed himself at the beginning of the movie, it turns out he was evil and he had like a Joker plan to like make all the laborers rampage. And the movie is them trying to figure out what's going to make it tick. And they find out it's because of the sound, like the vibration. It's the sound waves the human can't hear.
Yeah. And that's what was super interesting too, because the villain from the first movie, I remember when they were researching him and where he lived in an area that wasn't like populated by laborers, or like it was an area that was about to be expanded, kind of like in real life when like an area is like, hey guys, blank city is about to get real crazy, I'd start putting your stocks in there. He like used to, and he like used to live in one of those areas before they didn't see benefit from it anymore, so they stopped like renovating and in that area. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But I think, what was it? There were like the areas that like the first 3 attacks were in, he lived in at a certain point. And it was like the building's geometry, like, I don't know, that was cool.
I like the detective scenes in here. There's like a great scene where that's a character I don't think gets enough attention. I don't remember his name, but he's like the short little fat guy that's the detective. And
yes.
I think it's him and Goto just investigating like 3 houses is the scene. And that scene was always really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have like a real payoff. Like they go to 3 houses, they find a Bible verse, and then they drink a bottle of Coke, and they're like, yeah, well, we know he liked this Bible verse now. All right, let's go. Like that's all they really get from that. But it's still entertaining just to see how they like do an investigation.
Yeah.
And just to see the characters interact, I think.
Mostly.
But moving back to the finale of the film, there's this bit where, so it's revealed that the Ark is essentially this giant whistle that's going to make every labor go crazy that's had this operating system installed on it.
There's like a typhoon that's going to come in that does like 40 miles per hour winds, and because of like every building's geometry and like their insanely populated areas is basically just going to like dog whistle every single labor into going rogue, and that's like what, like millions of them? Like probably not millions, but like
probably not
thousands.
Millions, but like thousands. And it would, I mean, they show on the map, it would probably destroy most of Tokyo.
Yeah.
Or
It
not
would
even
be,
Tokyo, just Japan.
just Japan. It would just ruin
Yeah.
everything. And so,
So
yeah.
the whole last act is like, okay, we have to fly there because we can't shut it down remotely. So we have to fly there and we have to blow up the Ark piece by piece while we're getting overrun by these robots.
That was their own security system too, right? Like it would
Yeah.
I think like half of them weren't even like hacked by Haas yet.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
like
because
just
the
their
Haas
own
stuff hadn't happened yet. Like
Yeah.
because it hadn't done the whistle yet.
Yeah.
Like, because whenever the whistle happens, like a lot more of them show up and things get a lot more dire.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, there's like a great moment where like the thing is falling down and like it's falling into the ocean, and then Noah, who's probably my favorite character, she's like this like tomboy mechanic that really loves her robot Alphonse, and she has to fight like the mega evil labor that they made. That's like the best labor ever made.
Well, it
That can
was
like
Shinobu's, right? Shinobu's labor.
well, it
That got
wasn't
hacked?
her labor. I don't think she was just commandeering it to.
Oh, but it was
to
like
use
it
it.
was supreme in like hand-to-hand combat. That was like its whole thing.
Oh yeah, it was supreme in every way. It was like the best version. So it's kind of like that Real Steel thing where it's like, okay, you got the crappy junky one, but the mechanic who knows how it works, versus
A perfect machine,
the perfect machine. Yeah,
and it's being utilized by a program
virus.
that's gone
Yeah.
insane and is trying to kill you.
Yeah, but I like that whole confrontation because it's not like a big punch 'em up. Like that's what I like about a lot of the Patlabor confrontations is every punch means something. Because it's like if you get hit, your arm's going off. Like your robot is going to be like part of its functions are going to be stopped with each blow. Like there's no moment when it's like, oh, they hit the guy 80 times and then he's like, you see, my robot's stronger than yours. That did nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it
There's,
never gets to that level.
And I think like the final confrontation, it's like it's pretty crazy because Shinobu is like still in the hacked Patlabor, and so what's her name? She can't shoot, and so
Yeah, Noah
she
can't
basically
shoot,
has
yeah.
to use her wits to take over the robot. And
Yeah,
so that
and
it leads to like a really cool moment where she's like, I don't need my robot to be like useful.
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
Yeah, and I think I would actually recommend watching the series because Shinobu gets mentioned in this. Like, I forgot how late she gets brought in, and she's really not even that important. But in the OVA series, she's very stern and like very matter of fact. And seeing her interact with like Ota and Asuma and like all of the characters that are more like goofball is actually
Ota
hilarious.
So much. I hate Ota so much. I
You
don't know how
do?
they. No, I mean I don't hate him, but I'm like every single time. I think he's funny. I like him a lot more in Patlabor too. But
Yeah,
I think
his
it's
bits
like
in Patlabor
how
2
do
are
they
really funny.
how do they let this man like get into one of those machines? Like,
I know exactly what scene you're thinking of in your head. It's whenever he shoots the labor, then he hits the freeze tank by accident, so the whole thing
Yes.
freezes with both of them in it.
Yes. He like it's like putting like a freaking like Call of Duty kid from like 2011 in like a giant war machine. He's just like, take this lead, and he's like running at him and like just it's like he's
Yeah.
just so dumb.
The scene where like the cop stops him and he's like, that robot crushed my car, you gotta go stop it, and he's like, okay, and then he immediately crushes his car again.
Yes.
That's a like those little moments are what makes this film. It's not the broad strokes plot, and I don't think you can really. It's kind of hard to talk about it that way, because the plot, like, it kind of doesn't really make any sense. Like, did the evil guy really expect like a typhoon to hit that would hit 40 miles an hour like on this exact day, or like could it have happened anytime, or did they have to wait until they installed the HOS system on everything and then wait for a typhoon? Even though I think they mentioned in the movie where it's like, yeah, we've got some guys that are reviewing the files right now, but we don't know when they're going to be done. It could be ages, you know? So it's like, I think they probably would have found it out. It's just kind of coincidence. This also happens to hit like right at the same time that the villain needs it to.
Yeah.
And I was also confused by
Is he
he's
alive?
I don't think so. He's got this ID tag 666, which I mean, obvious, biblical,
Devil.
devil. He's Joker.
But I thought that was like when he like actually killed himself, is when he was up there, like seeing his final plans. That's kind of how I took it.
Okay, because the ID chip is on a crow that is seen in the movie.
That was like his main. That was his main thing. His little booth
that was
thing.
his. Yeah, because he had like cages in his apartment where he would have a pet. So that was like his pet. Did he kill himself but leave his?
And at the very beginning of the movie,
the ID badge,
he's petting the raven.
Yeah, that's right. That's like the first scene of the movie.
But I don't know. I don't know how that ID tag thing happened. I can only assume that he was up there and he was seeing everything transpire and he was like, man, screw this, and he just jumped out the window.
I don't. But I mean, the first scene of the movie is him jumping off. Like, did he like Emperor Palpatine just like find a way to survive that?
Maybe he was just diving in some water and then he was just kind of chilling for the rest of the movie.
Maybe he had a boat down there. I don't know. Whatever. Look, I think he killed himself at the very beginning of the movie, and then he had a contingency plan where he's like, I bet, for some reason he thought this, I bet that those SV2 unit people are going to do research into this, and I bet they're going to catch on to my plan right before it happens, and I bet they're going to have to investigate this to make sure that I'm not here, so I'm going to put it on my crow. And it's like, dude, your crow could have been anywhere, bro. That thing could have been flying anywhere.
Nah,
Why would it stay there?
He knew he was going to show up.
The crow knew to stay there for weeks.
Hey, crows are actually really intelligent, so he probably could have like told it to do that.
I guess.
But like post-mortem, like his crow clutching up like that's kind of crazy. That's a little too perfect.
the movie ends with Noah stopping the big bad robot, and then they get like an airlift, and it's like, yay, we won, the end. And it's like an 80s movie where they just look off into the sunset as like epic music plays, and I'm like, heck yeah.
Heck yes, dude.
That was awesome.
They effing did it.
Pretty cool. I guess that's all I have really to say about this first movie, unless you have some extra stuff you want. The scene where
I kind of have just
Noah...
stuff to say of 1 going into 2, like things that I noticed.
Okay. Noah and Asuma's date at the pizza place is another favorite scene of mine, just because I like seeing those two characters interact and their will they won't they thing that they have going on. I think is very interesting.
The dude is like just an absolute like klutz. I'm kind of like him in that way. Just like,
I mean, they both are.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
what
really makes it
stupid
interesting.
to love.
Yeah,
they don't know.
Yeah. There's
it's
a
like
scene
their
where, like,
date has like super light like undertones, but like, what's his name? The dude. He knows like so much that she doesn't, and so he's like, she thinks that the date is like under a pretense of them like sneaking out, of the base, like, and eating together, but and he's like, yeah, so this guy, has he gone crazy? Like stuff like that.
Yeah, he's constantly trying to drill into the investigation, and she just wanted a meal.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get into ratings, or are we done?
I think we can get into ratings. I don't think there's really anything else I want to mention.
I'll give it a 7.
That's okay, because that's exactly what I was going to give it. Because I have this sitting at an 8 on Letterboxd right now, and I'm kind of thinking, what was I thinking the last time I watched this movie? But I don't know, because the last time I watched this, I had also just directly watched the TV series beforehand, and I also gave the TV show an 8, like the OVA series.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Maybe watching those 7 episodes and then watching this movie, it's like, oh, it's just more of the show, and it's a pretty good episode of the show. Mm-hmm. So maybe I enjoyed it more. I don't remember, but recommend the show, the movie, pretty good.
Well, we getting
and
into.
Then you said
what
you wanted to talk about some stuff that happened in between.
Okay.
1 and 2.
So the beginning of Patlabor, the first one, they have just a showcase of like what the military like weaponry is like, and it's like super epic where they're like hostile scene here, and it's like boom boom, and they're like killing things, and it's like, wow, this is so freaking cool. But in the second movie, it completely turns it on its head, and it's in a situation that I've heard of in like military a lot.
Yeah.
Because there's tons of moments where people have like a kill shot, or like, they're ready to, they're like, their lives are like actively in danger, but their higher ups are like, yeah, you can't shoot, this will cause like so much problem, you have no idea, we're just going to get you out of here. And that's kind of what happens in the first one. And so it's like a mirror, where it's like in the first one they're just like, boom, yeah, kill, let's go. But going into the second, they're not, they're manning these like super like strong weaponry. And I think it's even better than in the first movie, because like in the second there's like a little bit of a jump where like things are just a little bit better, and they're not able to shoot these guys, and everything everything hashtag goes wrong, and they get blown up, and that's kind of like where the movie starts.
It's I guess before we get major into the plot, in between Patlabor 1 and 2, there is a 48 episode TV show which I haven't touched yet.
Oh wow.
This one
is
does
that
not have
also
very
directed
much.
by Oshii?
It is not. That one I think does not have much Oshii development like at all. I don't think. So that's kind of why I put it off, and also because every time I rewatch Patlabor 1 and 2, I'm like, man, I want more of these characters, and I'm like,
yeah,
well, there's 48 episodes more. But if I watch that, it's all over.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll watch it one day eventually. One day I'll crack and I'll just go, I don't care, and I'll watch the whole thing. But so there is like and that is canon. So like there is a time skip, and like characters do change over the course of that show. Leading into this, that's why Noah isn't as much of a klutz tomboy as she is in like the original.
The guy?
No, Noah.
Noah, yeah.
The girl. I guess the guy as well. The guy's also a lot more mature too.
Yeah, but he's kind of been put in a situation in the second movie where he's just like the organization he works for, they know he's such a smart dude that they put him into a job where he just sits at a computer all day, and it's kind of sad, like his development in that way. He's still awesome. It's just the system that he works under. They used him.
Yeah, he doesn't do as much, and I find that very interesting because the second film, instead of focusing on like the young characters, it focuses on the two oldest characters. Well, I guess they're not the oldest, but they're two of the older characters.
This is the Ghost in the Shell 2 effect though, because I like those characters a lot.
I like those characters a lot too. Nagumo and Goto, and they also have like a will they won't they thing, but theirs is a lot more.
My favorite like relationship dynamic is where they like strictly stand on business.
Yeah, and
that's exactly what they are. I think my favorite scene between them, what's her name? Is it Shinobu and Gato?
Shinobu, Nagumo, and Kichi Goto.
Goto. I love the scene where Goto and her, they have like a little scuffle because they're commanders, right? So they have to go to this like higher up meeting, and Goto's like, I'm not going. Like, I don't respect any of those people. And Shinobu's like, well, you have to go. And if I tell you you have to go, you will. And he's like, so why don't you do it? And so instead of her like commanding him, she's just like, okay, well, I'm going to move out of the office. And she like, sassily leaves. And like, not even within like 20 seconds, he just completely gives up, and he calls her and he's like, yeah, I changed my mind. I think I want to go.
That's what I was going to mention. I really love that.
That was probably my favorite.
That's it's one of those nice light moments of clarity in a film that is so dark. Because this movie is, so I guess kind of to set the stage, after post-World War II, the U.S. kind of was like meddling with Japan, and they're like, hey, you're not going to be doing another Pearl Harbor, and you're not, going to be allying yourself with like, the Axis forces again or anything like that. So we're going to write into your constitution this extra article that says like you can only defend yourself, and you're going to be like a pacifist nation. And so as the Cold War kind of dies down, because this movie was released like a bit after the walls fell in Berlin and like the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this whole movie is about. Like, okay, now that this Cold War is over and the Soviet Union has fallen and Russia is not in a good state right now,
We shouldn't be like in a terrified state.
we shouldn't be like a docile, like, you know, still listening under the rule of, like, we should be able to have like our own military force and everything and see how this all shapes up. And that's like what the whole first point of the scene is. Like the first scene in the movie is that like a commander of a unit is in a war, or they're in a conflict in Eastern Asia. And I believe, I mean, don't quote me on this yet. I have been doing a little bit of research, but I didn't do as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
I believe the scene is a direct, like, almost, like, it's highly inspired by something that happened in Cambodia around the same time. Like a real-life event that happened with Japanese soldiers.
Oh.
And Mamoru Oshii, he's very political, and so he kept up with all that stuff. And so he kind of wanted to go, like, I'm going to make a movie about this. About, like, you know, because, like in, you know, in real life, you know, those people probably would have lived if the higher-ups would have let them take a shot, but those casualties only happened because, you know.
It's, yeah, that's something I can see, like, within, like, both of the movies, is that there's always somebody, like, higher up than you that's making the big decisions that don't really, like, benefit anything other than themselves, and they kind of want to stay in this, like, this kind of, you know, peaceful, you know, air, like, kind of,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't want conflict at all so that they can, you know, sit in their house and, you know, drink their tea with their pinkies out and not care.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
In their stuffy rooms, yeah.
Yep.
And here's something I want to bring up, because I don't know how much you know about this. So, I believe I gotta remember this correctly. The JSDF, the Japanese Self-Defense Force, is almost like their version of like the National Guard for us, because we're dumb Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
it's kind of like like you kind of enlist as like a civilian, like, servant almost.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't think a lot of those National Guard guys are, like, on all the time. You know what I mean? Like, It's kind of like on-off kind of thing. It's like a thing to help the community, I think, more than it is like an actual, like, rank or position in the army, you know?
Yeah.
And the police, which I can't remember the name of them now, but, like, in Japan, but, like, the police force is like the police force here, where it's, you know, volunteer citizens that, you know, are, you know, get paid by the
working.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
It's
how
like
was I
seen
gonna
as their
phrase
job
this?
title.
Yeah. But they're paid by like the state, and the government overall is paying for the National Guard.
Yeah.
And the whole conflict of this movie, well, I guess I should kind of back up a little bit. There's a terrorist incident where a American fighter jet, isn't it American?
Yeah.
It's presumed American.
Yeah.
Blows up, or no, it's presumed Japanese, but it actually is an American.
Yeah.
There's a bridge that blows up in a terrorist activity.
And
kills
a bunch of people, F's up a bunch of stuff.
Does it kill that many people?
It kills a bunch of people on the bridge, I know that were hit by the missile, because it seemingly came out of nowhere, right?
No, because it hits a car, and the car is near nobody.
Oh.
Because, like, one of the whole things about the villain is, he doesn't want to hurt any, like, innocents at all. He doesn't want to hurt anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like, I'm gonna start this revolution, and this, like, pretty much this civil war between the government and,
the people.
And the police force.
Oh, my
bad. Through this, like, these acts of terrorism. And so, like, at the beginning, it's like,
okay.
Oh, well, it was a terrorist attack by these Japanese people, so it's just Japanese people you gotta worry about. And then that's what they tell the public. But on the inside, there's, like, a guy that comes in from the JSDF to the police Patlabor unit, and he's like, Goto, I have this VHS tape, and look at this. and that's not the same fighter jet they showed. That's an American jet.
Mm-hmm.
Like something fishy is happening.
Yeah.
And like we don't think the Americans try to do this. We think this was them kind of just trying to prod us a little bit to see what would happen, but instead they accidentally fired a real missile, and this is all a big mistake, and we think that America and the pilot in this situation that fired the missile were both getting played by someone of like a higher like terrorist threat.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that's a lot. We just got to talk about the scene construction of this movie because I love it. The shot composition is beautiful. I think this might be one of the most beautiful animated films I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I post this GIF a lot just because of how beautiful I think it is. That GIF of Goto, Nagumo, and what's the guy with like the lazy eyes name?
I don't know his name, but he has the glasses, right?
He has the glasses. I'm trying to see. I am currently on.
It's where they go on the boat, right? And they talk about their society and war and peace, right?
Arakawa. I was going to talk. The GIF that I use a lot is just them looking at the VHS tape. Just like the blue light reflecting off of all their glasses.
They also do eagle eye in that. I think one thing that I really like about Oshii's films, and like a lot of actual good anime films, is that like characters they don't have the Sugoi face. They actually have like different facial structure instead of like, you know, copy and paste the same thing over and over again, or they're like super like mushy and like you're supposed to be like, oh wow, they're so handsome kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's like these are real people. They have sunken in eyes. They have like, you know, weird noses. It's like they're people. Like
yeah, they all have imperfections. Yeah.
At a certain point when they started making anime movies, they started hitting the, all right, so we're just gonna make every movie like a Ghibli movie, and it's all sappy, and you know they all just kind of look the same, and they're all Sugoi and Sugoi Destiny. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of anime now, especially, kind of has this, and I knew it would get here because if I talk about this film for more than 5 seconds, it turns into I hate modern anime. Can we go back to this?
Mm-hmm.
Like the old man screaming at the cloud. But like I'm sure you've seen like the AI generated art, and it's like, oh look, we made it look like anime. Yeah. Honestly, I think a lot of anime now almost looks like that. Like, like your average kind of like the only two exceptions I can really think of top of my head are like Dawn to Dawn has a very unique visual style, and the Chainsaw Man anime has a very unique visual style.
Yeah.
Like, I really, really like Vinland Saga, but it is almost just a copy paste from the manga. Run it through an AI filter and go, okay, make it look good. Like,
make it look pretty.
Not saying the direction is bad, because I think the direction is very good in that Vinland Saga anime, but just the character designs, I think, is what I'm trying to get at. And like the backgrounds, I'm kind of fine with them looking like that. It's more so the character designs, I think.
I'd have to think of like a current anime that really like grinds my gears, but it's just
Demon
like
Slayer.
Yeah, but there aren't. I mean, I guess Demon Slayer, but Demon Slayer has like its own unique kind of art style, and
I guess,
the way the way that it's like you know, animated is also like not typical, you know?
Yeah.
I'd kind of think of something more, I don't know, probably the freaking like some random seasonal anime that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal, but it's like I don't see
like an
animes
isekai or something.
Yeah, I don't see animes and stuff that are like current that just have like people in them.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like people are trying to make, instead of making like unique kind of things, they just make slop.
They're smoothing it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think people should take character design into more appreciative than they do. I think a lot of people glance
like
over
Gato that's his name, right?
Goto.
He has like he has tired eyes. His nose is like it's not like pointed out. It's kind of like I don't know. It's Russian down. Like kind of nose ish. He's like, you know, in I think another thing is like that Oshii did in this movie is, he knows that his characters have like, not not considered unorthodox, but just like, not typical anime faces. So he does the eagle eye and like the certain thing where you could see their features. I think that's really
Yeah.
cool.
But
Yeah, you
I
continue.
mean,
My bad.
I love just the look of this movie. I mean, I got us derailed just because of, and
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't talked about the soundtrack yet.
You know what I was thinking while I was
I
seeing some of the
love
scenes?
this.
I was thinking that it was like it felt Silent Hill 2-esque.
It does. I was thinking that as well on my rewatch.
I forgot that one song in Silent Hill 2, but it's like the do do,
No.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a weird like I don't even know what to call that instrument.
It does have that kind of like ambience to it. Like honestly, that I think like the opening of the Silent Hill 2 game, like where you're running through the woods and it's like that, like the low like droning sound.
Yeah,
I think that kind of like Patlabor kind of has that, not really style, but it kind of evokes that same kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, I mean I really love the style. Like it's very ethereal. It's like it doesn't feel like the whole movie like feels real. Like but like that soundtrack, it's like I don't know how to describe it. Like everything in the world of Patlabor is like, wow, that really kind of would happen. Like you have these like giant robots and everything, but it's like they're doing labor,
Yeah.
like, and people aren't like, whoa, look, it's the giant robot. It's like that's like become everyday life to them, so they kind of see it as like, oh well, of course the labor's here.
Yeah.
Of course it's going to be building this in the background or doing whatever. And I really like that. But I guess moving on from the vibes for a bit, because I bet we'll talk about that in a later scene specifically. At the plot currently, they there was that like terrorist incident, and they found out it was like an American setup, and then my favorite scene in the movie. So, one of my favorites. God, I could say that about every scene in this movie.
Yeah.
Whenever they're in the car, and that guy Arakawa, the guy with the glasses and the lazy eye, he's telling him about like what he thinks about this whole situation. He's like, I don't think the Americans did it. And then he gets that call on the phone, right? And it's like, oh, we gotta go, like right now. And he steps on it, and then and then they're both like looking at him like, there's two on-duty cops in the back of your car right now. And he's like, yeah, well, 3 planes are coming into Tokyo airspace right now, and they'll be here in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that whole scene with that music is so tense. It's phenomenal. It's great. Like, all from the perspective of these guys on the ground just watching pretty much a radar going, okay, intercept. And then, like, you see the guys that are intercepting for a little bit, but it's mainly from the perspective of all the guys on the ground, and they're like, what's going on? What's happening? And then
where are the planes?
Where are the planes? Yeah, because the planes just disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the 2 planes they sent to intercept to the 3 planes that are, like, presumed dangerous just disappear completely.
Yeah.
And it's like, where did they go? And then, like, you've got other people on the ground, like, at the local airport that are like, cancel every flight right now.
Yeah.
Like, that's another thing.
They're starting, like, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, they're expecting like something that just happened where like, they blew up city infrastructure that was like really traumatic to the people. They're expecting that to happen 3 times over. They're expecting to go to war after today. Like it's, and I couldn't imagine that like headspace that they're in,
Yeah.
And then the relief whenever it turns out that it was all just like a hack basically.
Yeah.
From the inside, or no, it was from the outside. It was from a German station. So it was a hack from the outside, and they're like, oh my gosh, that like, this is like heavily compromised. Like they know these people, this like, because I think by then they kind of like, a lot of the higher ups don't really believe it at that point, but I think a lot of people that have witnessed it firsthand are kind of starting to believe the terrorist plot, the everything, like there was like a party here trying to instigate something.
Yeah.
And then after that, um, there's the scene where Goto and Arataka go and talk on the boat, which I'm sure is what you. I want to hear your thoughts on this scene.
That was
The
probably my favorite part of the movie because it really
Yeah.
puts like everything into perspective,
Hmm.
especially with like what the villain is trying to do as well.
Yeah.
That was
Which I
probably
guess we should mention by now, because it's mentioned in the movie by now, that the villain of the movie is the guy from the opening, the sole survivor of the opening,
yeah.
who saw his like platoon get wiped out. He is like the villain, and he has like this disdain for this society that has essentially just kind of takes these volunteers and basically just throws them to the wolves to rot so that they can,
Hmm.
you know.
Because really, the people that are manning those machines and stuff, like they are kind of just seen as fodder from people who are manning, uh, not the
Like
vehicles,
those
but
unit.
they're
Yeah.
controlling them through their actions, kind of thing. There's always like a
Yeah.
guide telling you like who to shoot, who not to shoot.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I guess that's a huge difference from like the military to like the Patlabor units, because it's like, um, they're trained not to in a circumstance where they can't rely like on the machine itself, or
Yeah.
somebody communicating to them. Like if everything goes wrong, I feel like I've said that a billion times, but um
I mean, that's a major
you
theme
gotta
of the
shoot.
movie. I
You
mean,
got you gotta be able to just use that robot yourself.
in this movie, multiple times, the theme of we have to prepare for the worst case scenario possible, even though it's highly improbable that it'll happen. But
Yeah.
by preparing for that worst case scenario, they inch closer and closer to it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like after this, because the whole point of this scene with the unjust peace and just war is like right now, there's people all over the world that are dying in different foreign wars, and we're profiting off of that. And that's where we have our fake sense of peace, because there is no peace. No two countries are really allied. It's a self,
Yeah.
beneficial to both of them that everybody gets along,
Mm-hmm.
And
It
it's
does
one of those
put
really
like everything into perspective, like because it straight up like calls out the viewer. I
yes.
watched it on dub, but I also had the subtitles on because I didn't have the opportunity to watch it in sub. I don't have it.
Well, I
But-
was going to say, as of recording this video, the Blu-rays have currently shot up to $300. So
Oh my gosh!
yeah,
Yeah, that's rough. But the dub
it's rough.
in that scene in particular, it says like it straight up says like people,
They banish war to the television, to
to the TV, yeah.
to the TV. I love that line so much because this was like, I think this was around the time like first-person shooters were kind of becoming popular, like games like Doom and stuff. And I think Oshi kind of saw where that was going and was like, these are going to be used to glorify war, and they are.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I mean, you look at the Call of Duty games, and they're essentially just giant advertisements for the American military.
basically.
It's kind of crazy
The
how on the
Transformers
nose
movie.
he was. Yeah. Like 10 years before the first Call of Duty game was released, he was already calling it out. He knew it was going to happen.
Hmm.
Like, that's just crazy to think about.
He knew.
But yeah, I love that. And especially with everything that's going on in our current, like, political climate with, like, the things that are going on in Ukraine and Israel and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
this movie is really ahead of its time. And I think it really does just... Even though I think the movie's, like, almost 30 years old now. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the commentary is literally just
It's
on
still
the nose.
just as
Like,
prevalent.
it's just as prevalent today. It is crazy to think about. It's such a great scene. Like, that scene is always like what I send to people when I'm like, check this out.
Mhm.
Like, I've got a friend who's really into like Metal Gear Solid, and I'm like, listen, dude, if you like that whole like conspiracy government angle, watch this. And I always send that scene, and I'm like, dude,
You gotta
this
check
movie's
it.
crazy. This movie will make you think. Like,
Mhm.
like you'll be hitting the thinker whenever it's over. It's insane. And I know I say that a lot, but I'm just genuinely awestruck by everything this movie is and everything this franchise is. It's kind of, I mean, it's just just the way it all fell together, you know?
Yeah.
It's just kind of impossible to think about.
The first movie going into the second is like, I guess the first, it really settles you into the world and like how the people are, and you know how it's conceived, like modern for them, you know, like it's just like everyday life, and then how it turns it on its head on the second movie, and it's like, well, you know what, the life you're living now is basically it's you're a phony, man.
Yeah.
There's big things happening right now, and what you consider peace is really
It's
just
an
fake.
illusion. There is no such thing as peace.
Yep.
And that's what the villain kind of wants to reveal. He's like, you know, he kind of wants to expose this and inspire a revolution of the people, where it's like, look, these people are taking you over, and there is no such thing as peace, and it's all a lie, because I was, you know, I was wronged in this way, and this happened to me firsthand, and look at how they react to everything we've done, and stuff like that.
Wasn't it also his thing is he wanted, like, I think you literally said it, but he wanted the government to turn against the police?
Yes, which that's what happens next. Is there's a scene where I believe it's the police has to go and protect the station of like the head of police, and the government is like, dude, that's the job of the JSDF. That is not the job of all these local police. You're supposed to be manning your stations. You're way out of line. All of you are out of line. But the head of the police that oversees them all has like ordered that to happen. And so that kind of sparks like this whole scene where it's like the government the JSDF kind of calls out the police on national television, and is like, look, they can't do this. They can't function right. We're stepping over each other. So we're initiating martial law. And until everything settles down about this bombing and this supposed terrorist activity, which they're still not saying they think is terrorist activity, they're still trying to keep the public as blind and stupid as possible to not incite panic, which in turn incites more panic among the public.
Yeah.
Because the public are the people that are, you know, they like, this is like if there was a war about to start and you were like going to everybody that was preparing in the army, like, hey man, it's probably like, you know, who knows? We don't know what's happening. Just get ready to shoot. Oh yeah, your enemies, they're going to be your neighbors as well. Like, it's just like crazy to think about, like, instead of just owning up and going, we think it's this terrorist activity. We think it's this, we think it's that. They don't even do a diversion. Like, immediately turning the people against each other. And it's just, you know, that scene where they get militarized is probably my favorite scene in the movie.
Like where they're all on the streets and stuff?
Yes. Seeing all these people roll out, and it's like just the natural life just like happening. And it's just, I mean, I'm sure you saw as well, like very similar videos were coming out like around the time that Russia was gonna was invading Ukraine, you know, where it was like I remember the day before that happened, I was still in like high school, and I was like, we were all talking about it at lunch. We're like, nothing's gonna happen, you know.
Nothing ever happens.
Nothing ever happens. I'm all in.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And like you looked at videos, and it was like, you know, like all these people on the border with these tanks and these like blood bags and like everything, like getting ready for a full assault. And the people of Ukraine, you know, I mean, imagine how they felt that day, just like going throughout their lives. Like, I mean, war may happen tomorrow, but like I still gotta provide for my family, and I still gotta work, and I gotta do this. And
seeing videos of like them preparing for war, like actual civilians having to make like what was the thing they were making? It was like their kind of Molotov and stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember. I know what you're talking about.
It's like it's crazy, and
just
it's kind of just like growing up knowing that we're surrounded by war all the time, and that it's never really gonna go away. It's I think that's one thing that the movie like instills in you.
Yeah, because I mean, we both grew up around the time of like the Iraq War, the war in Iraq, and I remember every day, because my dad always had the news on every day. It was like terrorism, death, like constantly.
Yeah.
And I remember being freaked out as a kid. I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to attack us at home? Are they going to do? And my dad was always like, no.
Yeah.
But I think,
yeah.
kind of growing up in that environment of since I've been alive, there's almost always been some kind of big conflict happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of crazy to think about. Imagine growing up in the Cold War, and for the past 50 years, there hasn't. Well, I guess technically, Vietnam War and Korean War happened during that.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of doesn't make sense. But imagine growing up for 20 years and there was no war. Imagine from 1940s to to the 60s before Vietnam, right?
Mm-hmm.
That 20-year period. Imagine you grew up you're born in the baby boom after World War II. Imagine how that must have been. Oh, we beat the bad guys. There's no war. Oh, what is this?
Again.
You're not expecting it. Yeah. We just got out of this. Why is it happening again?
Yeah.
And I think the movie talks about that in a very interesting way.
Mm.
And I mean, I guess we'll kind of get to it, but I think the villain he realizes kind of the error of his ways at the end.
Yeah.
And what he was trying to do.
Mm.
But I guess kind of moving along with the plot, they militarize, and then the terrorist organization get some attack helicopters, and then they shoot the labor units so that the police can't really strike back against anything, and it's
they get a jet too and start attacking all the towers.
Oh yeah,
and bridges
yeah,
too.
they get a jet, and they I think they actually shoot civilian areas too. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit where Goto and Nagamo were talking to the head guys of the police, and they're like, hey, we know what's happening. We know what's going on, and you may not want to believe it, but this is a terrorist thing that's being used to pit us against each other, and they're all like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No way.
They just refuse. They're too far up their own butts.
Yeah. And they that building gets shot up. It's civilian areas where it's just people at desk working. They just light up a minigun and just go through it. I don't think anybody gets killed on screen.
Yeah,
it's not like Jinro, where they just slaughter people.
Yeah, none of that. But I actually do remember it them gunning through buildings and just messing up everything.
But yeah, those were the terrorists with these.
It was one of those what?
To make it look like the Japanese Defense Force was basically they're planning a coup now. What has gone from we're doing martial law to protect everyone has turned into a coup because of one act from a terrorist nation, or not a nation, but a terrorist group.
Yeah.
In the public's eye, so the police are obviously well, they just attack us. We have to go on the offensive, and then the JSDF are well, if the police are mobilizing, we're gonna have to mobilize, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that really sows the seeds of the Civil War.
Yeah.
And that's whenever they introduce this idea that I really like, where the U.S. government calls them and they're like, hey, if you don't have this sorted out by 7 o'clock tomorrow, we're gonna come over and sort it out. And that's just crazy to think about. Imagine how the Patlabor, the movie, would have been so different if the U.S. government would have come in and probably taken the side of the militaristic force and essentially,
completely taken over Japan.
Just completely taken over Japan. That's crazy. That could have been an event that happened in this universe.
Yeah.
And it feels so real. It's not we have to paint someone as the big bad guy. It's I could definitely see America doing that to gain more land and to have more control over things as a national, trying to be a global
superpower.
Police. Yeah, a global superpower. It's just crazy to think about. But yeah,
I think
you continue before I get into the end of the movie.
No, it's okay. I just there's certain things that are similar within the first and second, and one thing is basically the goated police force with Goto, them basically being well, we gotta break the law because somebody has to do it,
Yeah.
and they end up saving the day in their own way,
Uh-huh.
which is I always think is very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so Goto no. Goto's just at the base, and he's like, hey, I'm going to team up with the old chief of police that's, like, currently, like, essentially retired, I'm guessing. I haven't seen the show, but I'm going to assume he's, like, in his elder years. And he's, like, he's done being on the force every day and looking over everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, all right, one last job. We're going to get everybody back together. And we know this tunnel. We can reach where their headquarters is. We found their headquarters. We can reach them, but it's going to be dangerous, and who knows what's going to happen down there because it's an obvious choke point.
Yeah, I remember the guy leaving his wife, and his wife is like, "I have another kid," and he's like sitting there choked up, like, "Oh,
that
crap."
That scene is heartbreaking every time I watch it.
I think it's hilarious though. At the same time,
it is. It's like because it's both played for emotion and
as a joke,
laughs at the same time.
Because the gang pulls up and they're like, "All right, sorry, wife, we gotta take your husband. Bye.
He'll be back." Yeah, and she's yelling at him over the balcony.
She was calling him like devils, like husband kidnappers and stuff.
Yeah, I think they have like a more developed thing in the show.
Oh.
Him and his wife, like, because in the original OVA series, it shows them more at home. So I think if I had watched like the original 48 episode, like the 7 episodes, then the movie, then the 48 episode TV series,
that scene would have hit harder.
That scene would have probably hit a lot harder because I bet it wasn't revealed that they had another kid on the way then.
Yeah.
So that scene was like, whoa. I always like that scene. And then of course, what's his name? Ota is just sitting in a dark room waiting for him to show up to come grab him.
Yeah.
Because he just wants to shoot something.
Yeah.
And I feel like, the movie still has like elements of comedy in it. Like one of my favorites is they're gearing up for like this like final battle. And they get delivered like an anti-tank rifle, and everyone else is like, whoa. But Ota is like, this won't destroy anything. Like, what if they have a tank down there? And he's like, well, like, hey, it'll get rid of military labor. You just close one eye and shoot. Well, what if they have a tank down there?
Close
both
eyes.
I'm like, that's a good line.
Yeah.
That's a really good line. And I guess that kind of leads into like this whole action scene in the tunnel, which I think is great because the whole series up to this point has basically been slice of life fun. And honestly, for like the first time, you feel like all these characters are in danger. Like,
oh, my phone is going crazy. My bad.
You feel like anything could go wrong here, and everything kind of does go wrong.
Yeah, I feel like I've said that like a billion times within the the podcast, just saying like it all goes wrong and like shit like that.
It is a major theme of this movie though. So it kind of makes sense. But yeah, while they're I guess before we get into the tunnel action scene, while that's happening, they find out that the guy that was inside the JSDF that was leading them info, that Arataka guy he's a mole. Yeah. So
I was kind of expecting that. I don't.
Yeah, he's pretty sus from the start.
They always had sus on him, but he was pretty chill. But
that is one thing I liked. They didn't treat it as like what, you betrayed us. It's like, oh no, we knew.
Yeah.
We knew.
We definitely knew.
Yeah. But he in the action scene, it's like, okay, in the tunnels now, it's like, all right, so there's like 2 like automated like defense turrets over there that like have legs and can walk and stuff. And we gotta like blind them with this flare and then get them all the labors up there, but it blinds the labors too, and the guy can't get a shot with his rifle. So it's like all going wrong, and they're trapped and they're pinned. And so like the guys have to like go under, and they have to like shoot the cords to make them shut down, and try and kill them while they're rebooting, but they don't. And then the thing shoots a hole in the opening, and then it starts caving in, and the water comes in, and it gets flooded. And I'm like, it's just such a tense action scene.
Everything is going wrong.
It's like, you compare that to the end of Patlabor 1, right? Where it's like this whole building is falling down, and there's like hundreds of robots fighting each other and all this stuff. But it doesn't have that same like level of like stress that this scene does. Like the first time I watched this, I was like on the edge of my seat. I was like, are they going to kill off a character? If you kill off a character, I'm going to be... I don't know if I can take it, like, emotionally, man. Yeah. I don't know if you kill off that dude with the wife and the new kid on the way, which is a very movie thing to do. Like, I don't know,
what
man.
You're gonna do.
I don't know what my fist would have gone through my TV. It wouldn't have been pretty. But
I like the ending, isn't it? What's her name? Shinobu.
Nagamo.
Yeah,
Shinobu,
I keep calling
Nagamo.
her Shinobu,
yeah.
But she shows up and sees the guy and arrests him, and it's a pretty chill arresting. But she used to have relations with him, right? Like they dated.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they had like a fling inside the.
And what was messed up is Goto saw them like holding hands for a sec before she arrested him, and that was a rough moment. I was like, dang.
That was one where I'm like,
oh,
she still cares about him.
Yeah,
even though
king.
Even though
he's
king
a terrorist,
Goto,
Goto deserve it. Oh, but he took it on the chin though. He took it on the chin though, and I think after that he had like a moment where he said he could only rely on his men, which I thought was really, really good.
Yeah.
I've been kind of just letting you talk about the movie because I don't it's not like, you know, as it's a you thing, like absolutely.
It is,
you know?
It is very much so a me thing.
So I like it. I don't think I like it as much as you, but I still really appreciate it, and
I think there's a very specific there's a very specific person that will like it about as much as me, and that's people that really like political stories, people who really like political stories with giant robots, and people who really, really like Metal Gear Solid and deconstructing of like government like concepts and like kind of conspiracy style stuff like that. Because like every scene in this movie where they're discovering information, I'm just on the edge of my seat. Like I've seen this movie 10 times. Like I know what they're gonna figure out, but I'm like, oh my gosh, look, he's going to this dude, but this guy posing as a police officer already took this data from him, and now they gotta find, and conveniently this guy just so happens to have this data. Who is this guy?
Yeah.
And like I just love it. I love the way the story progresses and everything.
Pretty well.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. But the ending of Nagamo meeting with the terrorist leader, and them basically, you know, he or she handcuffs one of his hands, and then
she holds his other.
She holds his other and then handcuffs herself to the other hand, so they're handcuffed together. And it's really interesting because
she's already considered arrested, but they already got out of there, right?
Yeah.
So she's also being arrested at the end. I didn't even think of that.
Well, I think it would have been more so kind of like at the end of the first movie where it's like, well, you did go out of bounds, but
you kind of did get the terrorist. Well, yeah.
It probably would have just been like you get suspended, but I think it's more so because she sees, like, in that moment, she sees his point of view, where it's like, no, you're right. This whole thing is corrupt, and it is run by these dudes, you know, in these buildings that don't know what the public do and are pitting these civilians against each other. And I don't like the political state we're in, and we're going to make a change.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the ending is. And then as as they take off in the helicopter, that detective guy, oh my gosh, I didn't even mention that. I'll mention that here in a second at the end. But that detective guy, he kind of like, he looks at him, he's like, so after you did it, why didn't you kill yourself? And he's like, I guess I wanted to see a bit more of the city's future. And it's like, even though this is like an illusion of peace, and there is no such thing as like real peace, that's not like an example to just like, that doesn't mean you just burn everything to the ground like an anarchist and not believe in order or anything. Like, there's still beauty to be found in
the civilization.
In civilization, I believe, and illusions. Yeah, I think it's a great ending.
Yeah.
I really love it.
When it ended, I was like, dang, where could they take this, like, you know, to a third movie? Because I feel like it could be a third movie, but
I think there could have been a third movie, but I like the idea of just leaving it off here and kind of being like up to the viewer's interpretations, sort of.
Yeah.
Like, I think
I don't know how a third movie would work though, but I'm also
if
not
Mamoru
Oshii.
if Oshii came back today and he was like, I'm making Patlabor 3 because something in the news really makes me want to make this movie and I'm gonna finish the whole thing up, I would just go let that man cook. I don't know what he's doing, but just let him do, because he is going to do something crazy. Like, the only version of the end of this story I want to see is one with him end it.
Yeah.
Like, he would have to end it for me to care.
Mm-hmm.
And
I feel like, just modern anime movies, I feel like we touched on this, like, before, just talking about, like, we were talking about designs and stuff, about, like, you know, compared to, like, you know, 30 years ago to now, but, like, still comparing 30 years ago to now, it's like, I feel like a lot of anime movies, they try to make themselves look really pretty, and they are, but there isn't substance. Or, you know, I guess that's probably all I gotta say.
I can definitely agree with that.
It's like when I watch, like, Ghost in the Shell, or, like, any other Oshii movie, there's moments where it's like, wow, like, this is cool as shit. Like, whatever he's showing me, it's like, you know, it's just a wowing moment. And they do that in, like, modern, but it's like, it doesn't, maybe it's just because the setting of, like, you know, his movies, and it's a lot more reflective on society. That, where it's like, you see a cityscape and you're like, wow, that's like, I could be there. But, like,
imagine the people's lives there and what they see and everything.
But now it's, you know, gonna say it again, but it's like they show some, like, city and there's, like, cherry blossom, and it's like, it's so sugoi, and they're
Place
Japan, and yeah, I don't know. It's just,
I guess the scene that just immediately came back to me is the scene with the investigator in this one, or the scenes with him. There's like 2 or 3. Those are all really great.
Yeah.
The detective, like the one of him sneaking in and then he gets knocked out and then he wakes up and he's got to
like,
find the phone.
To a pipe.
Yeah,
and he breaks the pipe off the wall and just carries it like a rocket launcher.
Yeah, so that he can call.
Yeah,
and let
his car
Goto
was, like,
know
completely
that
gone, or not gone, but
let
messed
Goto,
up.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah,
go
so
ahead.
he can let Goto know about the blimps, which I think is also one of the craziest things in this movie, because they show those blimps like so many times earlier.
Yeah, that's something I was paying attention to, because I was like, I was trying to find, like, if there was, like, some kind of metaphor or, like, something going on there, because, like, whenever they do big, like, shots like that, they're talking about, like, the people and like, their lives. And so what I kind of thought were the blimps was, like, that's basically them, like, the people in quotation marks, like, they're just kind of in the sky, just completely, like, oblivious to, like, you know, a warship that's gonna come or, like, kill them. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I kind of saw it as.
That's kind of cool. I didn't think about that.
But yeah, I don't know.
I guess I don't. I guess that's something I haven't really looked into this movie a lot, like, kind of symbolically, because this movie is very much so, like, nuts and bolts, kind of, like, very realistic styled. Like, characters don't beat around the bush; they just directly say what they're gonna say, and they don't sugarcoat it in, like, imagine you are this thing in this world. How would you feel? It's like, no, we're living in this right now. Peace. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the people that the people in quotation marks again. They, like, live in the big sprawling city where, you know, it's, like, all hyper industrialized, and they you know, they're able to be in, like, the big you know, the big towers, and, you know, see the whole city from, like, their perspective. But when it's, like, from the outside and you, like, see the blimp and it's like, oh, look, you know, it's just it puts it a lot more sour, because, you know, the peace that they're living is from the cost of, you know, people fighting, you know.
Yeah. It's I I also really like what they did with the blimps instead of them being like, because they tease them being nuclear bombs.
Mm-hmm.
But instead it's just gas. And the
Yeah.
first time that happened, I was like, dude, this is bad. This
And then it's
is
non-lethal.
bad. And it's not, that's the best reveal in the movie, is them looking at everybody get gas mask, and like the dude like shooting the window out so he can get a little bit high, like a little bit cleaner air and like outrun the gas just a little bit. Like, so many great details in that scene. And then it goes to these two commanders with gas masks, and they're just looking at a dog just staring at the barking.
Yeah. They're like, shoot.
It's non-lethal. They played us.
Yep.
And then that's used as like a, look how the, I would assume that would have been used as like a, look how the JSDF is incompetent. We should do more with the police, trying to prod the police to strike back after they, after the terrorist union or the terrorist people disguise themselves as like the attack helicopters of the JSDF to attack the police unit,
Yeah.
Trying to further instill that civil war. It's phenomenal. I love this movie.
Yeah.
I really do.
I can tell.
It's great. I think I will probably make a video essay on it at some point.
I think you should.
A big one. I think that would be a lot of fun, because there's a lot of stuff I want to dig into this kind of,
it's cool,
the political time and everything and whatnot, because I don't know everything. There's lots of interviews I haven't looked over. I bought the manga animation special edition DVD, which has a 80-page storyboard and essay book with a lot of essays and interviews with Oshii, and it has like an hour-long making of as well that I haven't watched yet.
Oh.
That I meant to watch in preparation for this, but I got busy with schoolwork because it's final season for me. So.
Yeah.
I would like to do a deep dive on this movie one day, though. I would like to like research everything and
cool.
just go all out. I love this movie. Honestly, probably in my top 5. So, and I think Oshii's definitely in my top 5 directors.
I think Oshii's very, very, like, he's a very brilliant guy. I don't think I haven't seen one of his. I don't think,
You've seen one that you dislike.
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
But also, like, the movies that he has directed, like, I gas them up so much and say, like, oh, I wish movies, anime movies were more like this, but I think genuinely they wouldn't be that way if it wasn't for Oshii.
I wish any movie would make me feel the way that Oshii's work does, because, I mean, a lot of them don't,
Yeah. There's just always a deeper meaning, and, like, every scene, like, is, conveying his message, and it's interesting. It's interesting. Are we going to get to rating?
I say we do rating. Yeah, this episode's been about 2.5 hours.
Yeah. My brain was kind of dragging through Patlabor 2. I didn't really have that much to say.
Yeah.
I was saying a lot of
the heavy lifting on that one.
But you know what? I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Okay. The first point rating.
I know, because I don't think it's exactly a 9, and I feel like it's like discrediting it to call it an 8.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling an 8.5.
Would you give Ghost in the Shell 2 a 10? That's a question.
I would.
Okay, all right. So Ghost in the Shell 2 is your favorite Oshii?
I think it is.
Because that's my second favorite.
I think
find it
is
very
by
interesting. Because I think Patlabor 1 is my least favorite Oshii, and I think Patlabor 2 is my favorite Oshii. It's kind of just crazy.
Yeah.
The dichotomy of those movies. If you haven't guessed already from the way I talk about this movie, this is an instant 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
It's got the heart on Letterboxd. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it to pieces. So, yeah, I guess. Oh, yeah, I wanted to mention this. While doing just a little bit of research before the show, there is apparently a live-action 12-episode series directed by Oshii.
Really?
For Patlabor. And it also has a movie finale. And apparently, this is all from one unconfirmed source on Reddit. I have not seen these movies or this show. But apparently they take place after Patlabor 2.
Oh!
So apparently there is like an actual canon like continuation that Oshii is involved in. It's just live action.
Okay. Didn't he make a live action like
he made
Jinro
a live action
movie?
Jinro as well. He did, yes, because Jinro is a trilogy. The first 2 were live action, the third one's animated.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah. Yeah,
I gotta.
I guess
I might check it out. I'm
yeah,
I'm
maybe
kind of
that'll
interested
be
to see like where he takes the world. I'd
maybe
say
I'll do that as a special recommendation or
yeah,
something. One episode. Who
yeah,
knows? I got more stuff I want to recommend though.
true.
Before we delve back into this.
Yeah, true. Are we gonna give our recommendations?
Yeah. Who gave it last? Do you remember?
I think you did.
I think it was me first. So I think
Okay.
you should go first.
So I am going to choose. Hold on. I have to search this up so that I can say the director's name real quick. But I am choosing Sunshine, directed by Danny Boyle. It's been in my watch list for a while, and I don't know crap about it.
This is another one that's been in my watch list forever that
So I'd like to knock it out.
Seen, so
I want to see a cool sci-fi movie. I'm pretty hyped.
Yep.
I want to know what you have in stock, because you gave Patlabor 2 and then fucking Red 1. So I want to know.
All right.
I want to know what you got in stock.
Well, okay. So this is like kind of an unofficial trilogy of films.
Okay.
And one of them is coming out in theaters now.
You're about to about to say Spaceballs, bro. So
they all have different directors. Okay. So I'm just gonna I mean, if you don't know these movies, you know, go read up on your Kino, okay? Because you're gonna need it for this one.
Okay.
I'm recommending Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven the Hunter as my 3 movies for next episode.
No! This can't be. I have to watch Morbius? Are you serious?
Yeah.
All right. Madam Web sounds really fun to watch again, but freaking Morbius, dude. I'm actually kind of excited about Kraven the Hunter, but
I can't wait. I was about to say we're gonna go see Kraven. Okay. I was like, I couldn't just do Kraven, bro. I had to do them all.
Well, shoot.
Like, so that's our movies.
Yep.
Sunshine, and then Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
In theaters December 13th to make $1 quadrillion. I can't wait.
Oh.
Most anticipated film of the year.
Well, I guess.
I think this episode has gone on long enough.
I know. We gotta give it. We gotta close it out.
Oh, I guess I do want to add one more addendum to this that's not really related to the podcast, but more so my channel.
Okay.
I just wanted to say there was a recent spike in viewership with the previous episode. We went up double viewers, almost triple viewers.
Oh, really?
And yep.
Were they calling me out for vaping the whole episode?
Yeah. Most of the episodes were what do you call it? Most of them, you know, we get like 40 to 50 views, but this one we got like around 120.
Oh, nice.
So we got a pretty big increase.
Our
in viewership.
Barry Lyndon one?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
And so I would like to let the people know that I am going back into content, and hopefully, I mean, this is a big hopefully depending on how school goes, but I think I can do it. That before next podcast, I will have another main channel video out on Silent Hill 2 Remake.
Oh!
So, expect that.
I'm going to be watching
that. That will not have my podcast co-host on it, but
yeah.
I don't know.
But
if you're interested in the channel, please subscribe.
Yeah.
Check that one out.
And so I'm going to shamelessly plug.
Slap that like button. that notification bell. Make sure that ringer's on.
All right, and before we close out, I want to shamelessly plug my SoundCloud. I'm up and coming in Detroit, and I want to get I want to be able to perform in the Rose Bowl before I die. So I lied, everybody. Anyways, we'll see you out. Have a blessed day. Tune into the next one.
Everyone have a great day. Bye.
Bye.